Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the podcast. Just a quick backstory to this episode. Jared was recommended to me by Anthony. They had known each other for years and said he was an interesting guy. Anthony, who also joins us on the show today. And Jared just recently started his own podcast called Brownwater Banter. And we decided to just get together and kind of talk about podcasting and other things. Anthony, being a driving enthusiast that borderlines the pro level, talks about some bad driving habits, which me and Jared relate to and get into a little spiel about that, and just a bunch of other things. You can go to the show notes and see all the points we talked about. Otherwise, we'll just get right into it. Subscribe to Coastal Noise at iTunes. Leave a feedback if you can. A rating, appreciated. YouTube, you can subscribe there. Google Play. And anytime you do that, you'll get the new episodes as soon as they go up. You can also go to coastalnoise.com to the podcast page and download the audio files there. Okay? Let's go ahead and kick it off. CNP number 72, Jared Seymour, Anthony Lizana. Oh, and just a quick disclaimer, since my guests were concerned about it. The first person you hear speaking is going to be Jared. The other one's Anthony. And of course, there's yours truly. I'm sure you would have figured all that out. But hey, I just made your life easier. What you were just saying?
Oh, what I was literally just saying?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, on episode 1 of my podcast, we were drinking out of a solo cup, and it was empty, and I was taking like the little remaining water that was at the bottom, and it sounded like a tidal wave. When I listened back to it, I was like, holy shit, that was way louder than I thought. But we weren't monitoring. We didn't have headphones on because Anthony's not you, the other Anthony. His
What's his last name?
Patalo. Anthony Patalo. Yeah, he runs popnutshell.com, Popnutshell podcast. We were in his little studio, and anyway, he has a headphone amp, so he can split. I don't know what you're running your deal here through.
The headphone part. It's like a splitter. I guess that would.
Okay, he has a little like amplifier, and long story short, it wasn't working, so we didn't have any headphones on, so I didn't hear anything we were doing other than just what you hear in the room. Mm-hmm. And then I was listening to it back. I was like, holy shit, that solo comes like an amplifier. It's really loud. So
you were talking earlier, Stefan, about cheap ways to get started and stuff. Solo cup amplifier. Mm-hmm. Recommend.
Yeah, exactly.
Podcast on a budget.
That's funny because in surgery sometimes when you listen to music, we've put it in those we have big plastic cups, like basins that we use like when you use suction or whatever, and you just stick your cell phone in there and it amplifies the sound. And
Nice.
we use that more than once whenever the in-house sound is down. When the studio sound guy is not available in surgery.
Damn.
Yeah.
Times are tough.
Yeah. We had to cut the budget.
Yeah.
Sound man's out.
Thanks, Obama.
And your shitty damn universal healthcare system can't afford radio.
Oh, yeah, you are in the medical field. That directly impacted. Oh, man.
Y'all aren't going to be cold if I turn that fan off.
No, I love the
Just
fan.
get a little circulation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, this is tight. These chairs are not recommend.
No recommend.
Now I feel like all elitist in the rocker chair.
Chair supreme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went into the, so we were talking earlier, I went into the Wayward Kraken for the first time last night because I keep hearing people talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty cool setup, and you were talking about potentially using it as a place to kind of set up for podcast recordings and stuff.
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah, we're working on setting something up over there on the side of same building, just on the side of his establishment there. We're still in the build out phase of setting up a little recording studio, kind of like what you got here. Like I said, I'm really impressed with this. Right off the side of your kitchen, which is super convenient. And like I mentioned Anthony earlier, he's got the same type of situation in his garage where he's painted like all kind of comic book heroes all over the walls, Walking Dead stuff. It's all the wall is just like a mural of all things nerd, as they call it, as the nerds call it nowadays. And but I didn't have a spot where I'm at right now. I don't have the room for it, so I was out already looking for something, and ran into LB at the Wayward Kraken, and they've got like a really cool little vibe going on over there. I was very impressed with what they're doing. they've found a need and have like exploited it in a good way. You know what I mean? He put it best, and I would have never understood this. He said that like if you're into nerd culture, comic books, just what's some other stuff like role playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, and all that type of like that culture. He was like, there was no other place for you to go. Right? If you went out to a bar, you had to like watch sports or, you know, like be into music or whatever, which they do have music there. Like they do live stuff there. Yeah, they do live music there. So I'm not saying that music isn't their thing, but they didn't have their own little niche, right? Mm-hmm. And you just had to kind of go out and pretend that you were either into that stuff or just kind of just accept it for what it was. And they created like this haven for people who are into that. They go there, and like if you go in that bar talking about sports, not that they're not into sports too, but you're kind of the outlier, right? Like they're talking about like the new, you know, Nintendo stuff and the Star Wars and technology. All kind of, and it's all shit that I like too. They're way more into it than I am, but I when I hang out there, like I'm listening, I'm learning shit, and I think it's cool as hell. So they found their market there, and they're doing well.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I was reading because they have all those games, and you can go in and rent the game, bring it to your table, and hang out with your friends and play. And all that. They serve beer there too, right?
They do. They serve beer. They can't get a liquor license as of yet because they are directly across the street from a church. Yeah, the Diocese of Biloxi.
What?
Yeah,
that's a law. Like
yeah.
You can't...
Yep. Oh yeah, that's a big law.
How is that relevant? Like. Never mind.
Catholicism?
There
never
you
mind.
go.
No, why would I question that?
Yep.
Can't buy liquor on Sundays, but you can buy beer. That's normal. So why would I question anything?
That makes a ton of sense, doesn't it?
You can drink the liquor that you bought on Saturday on Sunday, but
no, you can't.
Oh, really?
No,
okay.
Because it made as much sense as the law. Though, right?
that would make more sense, right. Actually. Like, I mean, it wouldn't be...
At least it was consistent. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, how
but
dare
anyway,
I question?
They only have beer, but they do. So LB is part owner, and then I hope I'm getting this right. They listen back to it like, you screwed it all up. Cannon Blue is she runs the kitchen part of it, so they have a killer menu as well.
I was reading their menu. The menu looks pretty good.
It is legit,
and it's funny too. They've got all the picture of the dang quesadillas with Napoleon Dynamite, and it's a wrap with the fish face dude from Star Wars.
Yep, it's a trap. That's the rap. It's a rap. Yeah, it's a rap. It's what's his name? Hold on, General Akbar. Yeah, it's a rap. But they've their menu is legit, and then they have a game room. This is all in one building. It's all attached to itself.
They have different rooms you go through.
One room where she reads, Cannon Blue reads stories to kids once a month or once, I don't know how often, but she'll read like Harry Potter from the book to them or whatever. Yeah, they have it all decorated with all the different houses. Anybody Harry Potter?
Yeah, I saw the Harry Potter room. Yeah. They have like a Harry Potter room, right?
I'm so...
This is all at the Wayward Kraken still?
Yeah.
I thought the Wayward... I've never been. I thought it was primarily a bar. I thought it was a nerd-themed bar.
It is, but it is a restaurant, and they're open during... I don't want to say... Well, I think they open at like 10 or 11, 12-ish. They're open for lunch, you know.
And they do themed trivia and things like that.
And it changes. They do, one Star Wars trivia. They did Friends trivia, that shitty sitcom from the 90s, They did that. They do. It's ever changing. You can buy a membership, which is super cheap. I don't remember the price, but
what is the membership for?
It gets you in. I don't know if they're still doing it. I think they are. On Sunday nights, they'll when they close, I think they close an hour or two early, and then membership people who have the membership there can come in at that time or stay there at that time, and they do like private screenings of movies. Kind of like you own the bar for those 2 or 3 hours. It's just you and the other members, and then any games that you rent or that you would normally pay for at the bar is free, unlimited free.
I was waiting for you to say that.
And it's $20 or something. It's very affordable.
So you're just a higher ranking nerd.
Exactly. Which we all love to pay for, rank.
Yeah, like Scientology.
Right.
Like, you're the best.
Exactly.
You'll get there.
Well, I'm better than you because you see here, I have this little thing.
I bought more midichlorians.
Exactly.
High-ranking nerd.
But I'm just impressed with what they did. They found a need in a community, and then they ran with it, and it's working out for them.
How long have they been there? Has it been
they
over
just made a year, a little over a year.
Okay.
A little over a year.
That sounds about right. Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading one of the games. It was called Fiasco, and it was like a book. And
They've got so many games there that I know Candyland. I know Monopoly. Keep going. What else is
Sorry.
there? So, thank you.
Rat
Trap,
Uno.
Uno. Thank you. All games I know. You go talk to those dudes, and they start firing them off, and I'm over there like, look, I don't know these games. And I'm like, they're looking at me like I'm a nerd or a dork or something. You know, like, you don't know this? I'm like, no, I don't know that. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. House on Haunted. I'm not even going to butcher it. There's a Star Wars game that they play. Dungeons and Dragons, which I think everybody kind of knows that.
Yeah. You got to have a Risk.
Right. Do you know how to play Dungeons and Dragons?
No.
I don't know how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Do you know how to play
I have
Dungeons
a
and Dragons?
general idea, but I've
I have
never
no
done it.
fucking clue how to play Dungeons and Dragons. But they do once a week. They do a free. You come into they have a big what they call the war room, huge table set up because Dungeons and Dragons is like you have to play it like on a board, like bigger than Monopoly. It's pretty involved, I guess. And they'll teach you how to play it for free
Oh, nice.
and all this kind of stuff. They have people who are really
Yeah, I have a friend who he's a little younger than me. You know, he's late 20s, or about 30, whatever. But he just got into Dungeons and Dragons with like in the last few years, and he plays with his other nerdy friends, and they get really drunk. And like he's told me stories, and like hearing him tell the story, it doesn't sound like a super nerdy thing like everybody stereotypes it to be. Like it sounds fun. Like,
Yeah,
I'm actually very interested in that. But like, yeah,
I don't play it. So again, LB is the guy who, part owner, runs the Wayward Kraken, and then my other friend Anthony Patalo, Pop Nutshell again. When I talk to them on the phone, they'll tell me like, oh yeah, man, like I'll call them like on a Wednesday or something. I'll talk to them. Yeah, we just got up, man. We stayed up all night playing Star Wars board. Like they sound like when I hear them talk, it's like, used to you went out and did drugs and went to bars and did that. What y'all are talking about board games? Like what the fuck happened to society that this is now the norm? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The paradigm has shifted.
Yeah,
here.
the pendulum swings.
Yeah, and I don't fit in and I don't like it. I think it's funny. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I call him a Jim Morrison of the nerd culture.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like it's weird. It's so mainstream now to be a nerd. Like
yeah,
10 years ago, you got beat up for being a nerd. Now you get beat up for not being a nerd.
Yeah, it's weird, man. And I guess like shows like Big Bang Theory or something is like.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that's and I
yeah.
think it's good. I think it's a good thing, but it's made it more mainstream, like you said. It's different. It's fun. It's fun. It's cool to be nerdy. So
Like Hot Topic. I haven't been in that store in years, but I'm sure like right now you could just drive a few minutes down to Hot Topic and walk in and buy some Nintendo shirt in the store. Whereas 20 years ago, if you wanted a Nintendo shirt, you had to like find some crazy magazine. That's
I didn't know where you were going with that. I thought you were going to say I was like they're blended. Everything's blended together now.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like I don't know. I'm not in school. I haven't been in school in a while, but I would assume in today's time, like in like middle school age, like back when I was in middle school, that was the kids that got beat up were the nerds. Yeah. Whereas now I would assume like even the jocks are like, oh yeah, like I'm really into like, mostly first person shooters, but still video games, video games are not lame anymore. Like even the like jockiest most like.
Did you ever see the new 21 Jump Street? The new one with I can't remember his name. Anyway, they made a reference to that in the movie where the nerdy dude went back to high school now, and the jock guy went back, and the jock was not cool because he was into sports and he didn't drive a eco-friendly car. He drove a like an old 1980s you know what I mean? Like, and then the nerd dude was totally popular because he knew all the nerdy shit. It was hilarious. I can't remember his damn name. He's from around here too. It'll come back to me about 30 minutes later.
Yeah, I just assume that's how it is right now. In
Channing
real life.
Tatum, boom, got
Bam.
it. Yeah, and the dude from Superbad, what was his name?
McLovin.
Nope, the other guy, the fat one.
Oh,
the one who's
McLovin. McLovin's friend.
Yeah, the one. His career actually took off where all the other ones really kind of didn't.
I know who you're talking
Jonah
about.
Hill?
Jonah Hill. Thank you.
Brittany saw him. She was in a store in New Orleans. She walked in to buy like some shoes, and Jonah Hill was just in there also shopping for shoes.
Where at?
In New Orleans. Like,
oh wow.
Just Jonah Hill just in the store. Like
just hanging
it was
out.
like he was by himself. He was like real, just a normal dude like, in the store.
No big deal here on Canal Street.
She didn't even talk to him. She was just like, oh, holy shit.
She one upped him. Nice. She big
so.
staged him. Yeah, she's like,
yeah.
She like walked out like, you didn't talk to Brittany.
Yeah. He wanted to, but he was nervous.
Yeah, he was super nervous to talk to the Brit.
Oh,
That's funny.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
He'll get there.
Yeah.
Are you a big movie guy?
It depends on what you mean by that. I love going to the movies. It's one of my favorite things. Again, like we were talking earlier about music, but I'd never do it because I have children and you can't bring children to the movies, especially super young ones, or you got to get a babysitter. So it's hard to go to the movies as much as I would like to. But I do. I love the movies.
And the ones that are good, that are rated R, you can't do that.
You can't bring them to really anything. My oldest is 8. My youngest is 18 months. And
yeah, it's pretty young.
Yeah. He would, it's not happening.
Big gap.
Yeah. Huge gap.
Yeah.
But I love the movies.
You could already be going to rated R movies if that other one had just been a year behind.
That's right. That's right.
Just kidding.
That's right.
Just kidding. God, the PG movies at least.
Yeah, we could go see some Toy Story or something, whatever's hot nowadays.
Yeah.
And I've watched that movie 1,000 million times. I'm trying to think of like a good movie that's came out lately though. Everybody's blowing up the Infinity Wars. Have you seen that? The trailer coming out?
No, I just saw the second or Thor Razengard, whatever it was. The last
Ragnarok,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw
You sound like me when I hang around with all the nerd people. They start just this character and this guy actor played the director, blah blah. And I'm over there.
I
like,
sat and watched it with guys who knew what was going on, and I was like, "Who's this?" I also came in halfway through right before Thor fights the Hulk. That's the scene I walked in on basically, and I watched it. I
just keep at when's Wolverine coming in? Like that's,
right,
is Wolverine in this? You know what I mean? That's how far I go. I thought I knew a lot about it. I not compared to those guys.
Not same universe, bro.
Yeah. I'm like, what's Superman doing here again? To explain this to me. I don't know.
Yeah, my buddy was like, when they were doing the Hulk and the Thor were fighting in the scene, he's like, both two indestructible creatures.
Yeah.
Why are they fighting them?
Yeah. That's why I never really. I say never, like I wasn't a kid and had this kind of insight, but as an adult, it's like Superman's indestructible. So how is that even why are we watching this? There's no, unless you have kryptonite, there's no fight, right? Him and Batman, there's zero fight. I didn't watch Batman versus Superman. I think he had like a kryptonite suit or something. I'm assuming by your facial expressions, neither one of you saw.
Ben Affleck?
Yeah. No, you never watched it. I didn't either. Apparently it was shit. I didn't watch it either. I heard it was shit.
You need to watch the Ben Affleck video of them talking. I forget. It's Sad Affleck is what it's called.
Okay.
Fucking hilarious.
They say he was a good Batman, but the movie was shit. I've never seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like 6 years later.
I've never seen it. I heard it was terrible.
Yeah. But anyway, so if Superman's indestructible, he's moves at faster speed and bullet, and you can't kill him. That's not fun to watch.
No,
there's no fight there.
There's no challenge.
Yeah, that's why I like Batman better. All he's got's money.
Yeah,
and some brains, kind of like Iron Man.
That's true. Batman and Iron Man are pretty similar.
Yeah.
Have they ever collaborated? They'd be good together. I guess different.
I don't know if they've been in a movie together. And I mean, there's so many people. If there are any nerds watching this, they're going to be
somebody let us know about.
They're going to blow it up on the comment section like, you stupid son of a bitches. Like, you know what I mean? I'd be like saying like, does LeBron James play football or does he play hockey? You know what I mean? They're like out there like, you son of a bitches. You don't know your universes. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's baseball, stupid.
Yeah, like, exactly. Everybody knows he's a pitcher.
There's a scene in the whatever planet they're on in the Thor movie, and it looks like friggin' Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, so I was just joking around. I was like, so they threw the Lord of the Rings universe into this too? Like,
yeah.
You know, what company has this much money that is in control of these movies that they can just be like, you know what, we're going to need Lord of the Rings too.
Yeah, we're going to put them in there.
Yeah.
It's funny when they like in the Deadpool movie, there was certain characters they couldn't get in the Deadpool movie because they couldn't afford them.
Yeah, and he makes reference to that as well.
Yeah, which is why that movie was so fucking good.
Yeah, so it's so self-aware.
Okay,
it's so self-aware of itself.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, it broke the fourth wall or whatever so many times.
Because that's how the comic is. Apparently, I haven't seen the movie or the comics, but
you haven't seen Deadpool, dude.
Last time I saw a new movie was like 2008. Like I saw The Room. I haven't seen anything since The Room, which is fine.
That's a little weird.
Have you seen The Disaster Artist yet?
No,
it's on the thing, and I was gonna watch it after this possibly.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah.
You haven't seen anything since 2008?
No, I'm exaggerating, but I don't see many movies. Like,
you're not
I'm pretty
a big movie guy.
No, which is funny. I love movies. Like every time I see one, I'm like, yeah, that was the best movie ever.
Well, at least I served up a good excuse. What's your story?
I'm just lazy.
Okay, See,
like
that works.
I am so lazy. I don't watch movies. Like
That's too much work for you.
yeah,
Because
like,
you'd have to go out and find it, even though there's the internet and you can download it now, but you'd have to log into something.
yeah.
You
But
have
I
to
would just like to
stream
take this
that.
time to brag about how lazy I am.
Let's
Like, I'm
go.
too lazy for movies.
That's-
Like get you some.
Come on, let's get
Get on my level.
Let's see if you can get a Covey for laziness.
Probably can.
Come on.
Everybody vote for me.
No, explain it. Like how lazy you are. Like you won't stream a movie that's on your cell phone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't do shit on my cell phone. People like text me links to YouTube videos, and I'm like, no, I'm just not gonna click that.
But where are you at with your technology integration? Where?
I'm
pretty
I'm
well covered.
I'm an old school PC guy.
Okay,
I
so
don't
you have a
like doing-
computer.
Yeah, I don't like doing shit on my phone. So if somebody texts me a link to something, I just won't click it. If I'm feeling like real frisky, like maybe I had some caffeine like in the last 10 minutes, I'll copy the link, paste it into my email myself, wait till I get home, open up my computer, and then I watch it on my 70-inch screen. I'm like, I'm not watching shit on my phone. Like, yeah.
My head just almost exploded. That's
So-
a lot more work to be
I know.
lazy.
I know. That's the thing. Like, I'm like,
I mean, you're not lazy. You're refined.
I guess, but I'm also lazy too, because sometimes people will just like email me stuff. I'm like,
That's too much work. To
I
open
could
that.
click this, but I could also just not click it. So which would take more? So it's bad, real bad.
So, I think it's a perfect time to jump into the driving thing because we were talking about this before Anthony got here. I want to know where he's at with that.
Yeah, you had pretty bad traffic on the way here.
It was normal, so yeah, it was fucking terrible. It was normal. Yeah, when you called me, I was in. It was a actually 3-lane interstate, so 6-lane if you want to count both sides. But yeah, I was in the far left lane. I was behind.
Let's pause for a second. Paint the Bob Ross picture of your traffic driving experience. Like you've made videos that are on Facebook. You don't tolerate bad driving.
No, I think I'm a pretty laid back guy generally. Like I don't really get mad, but man, I've got road rage worse than anybody.
Okay.
Anybody.
And we talked about this earlier. You can go back to 2016, and we touched on this. I do believe on Anthony Patalo's podcast, I said the same thing. Like I'm pretty laid back, but when you're driving slow in the left lane, like it does a little something to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it does. And I've seen all your shit, all your posts, all your things that you've said, and I get it. Like I get it. Why do people do that?
I don't know. And that's the thing that gets me, like, because it ultimately comes down to, like, why do people do that? Because typically with the simple things like camping out in the passing lane and all that stuff.
That's my number one.
It's-
Do you have one higher than that? I would love to know.
No, that's probably
That's the number
epitome.
one.
And
That's
the
the number one.
Yeah, the reason is the epitome of, like, things that piss me off is because camping out in the passing lane is no harder or easier than just camping out in the transit lane where you should be.
I have a theory on this.
So it's-
something about that left lane, because you drive in the right lane every day, right? Normally, we drive, I feel like most people drive, unless you're a truck driver, you drive in normal streets. You don't drive on the interstate. I could be totally wrong on the statistics of that, but that's what I feel like. When they get onto a road where there's the left lane is available, I feel like they get over in that, and it's just like rainbows shoot up. It's like in what was it, Happy Gilmore, when he's doing that fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the slot machine's pouring out money and his girlfriend's in lingerie. Like I think that's what they're doing because they feel like they're doing something wrong, but it's right, but it's wrong, but it's right, and they love it.
It's like, I don't know, like having sex, I guess. You get to see the opposite
Thank you.
sex naked
That's
in
it.
person.
That's
like,
it.
ooh,
Titties
yeah.
all up in the left lane.
In real life.
Yeah,
Woo.
and they just fucking camp.
Yeah. My dad says the radio reception is better in the passing lane, but
I like my.
I don't know.
I like my picture better. I don't know. It feels better for me. You know?
yeah. But yeah, that of all the things, because there's things that piss me off, I think, about driving that the average person's never even considered. Like things, like even people who do get road rage, like.
Well, we were talking about this before you got here. I feel like your driving style and my driving style are probably polar opposite. Honest to God, where we agree on this issue. But I like to drive consistent speed, like what a limo driver should be. So there's no slamming you back in the seat, forward when you hit a stop sign. Like I don't like that. I'd like to be able to sit a cup in my cup holder, and the water line never really moves that much.
Yeah, I have cup holders, and I have to make sure that the liquid is below the halfway mark, or the cup will
you'll spill
spill.
it. Right.
Yeah, because I'm trying to tear them corners up.
Right. See, I don't dig that.
Yeah.
Respectfully, I do not dig that. Right. But we agree on but I still know when you're on the interstate, don't get in the left lane and do 40, 50, 65, even 70 if if you're not passing somebody, get over.
Right.
It's simple.
Yeah.
Simple.
And one of the biggest, like within that whole topic, one of the subtopics within that is I hear a lot of people that say, "Oh, I was doing 80."
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know who else was doing 80? The guy beside you. So you're not passing him.
Right.
So what would it hurt you to just get behind him or in front of him, just speed up for a second to get in front, and then just stay there?
Here's a curveball. While I'm on the interstate, if anybody's listening and you've never heard about this or you don't realize this, your vehicle, you don't have to be driving to like the highest end Mercedes, BMW, whatever. You have cruise control.
Yes.
Am I right? Am I right?
Yes.
Am I right or am I wrong?
You are right.
You have cruise control. When you get on the interstate, turn it on.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know how to use it, Google it. If you don't know how to Google, read your owner's manual. Get on the interstate, pick a speed, sync it up. You don't have to do anything with your feet. It's luxurious, right?
Yeah.
People what was the Model T first car? They would have loved to have had that. They didn't have it. You have it. Use it. People don't use it. So to go back to your point, I've been doing let's make up a number, 75, right, in the slow lane. I'm coming up on a car that's doing 68. Let's make up a nice round number. I don't want to say 69 because I'm not sexually perverted.
Good. All right. Yeah. Now I'm
Right?
comfortable with this.
I come up on the car and I go to pass them up, but they see that and it's like a challenge to them.
Yeah, they speed
Right?
up.
They speed up all the time. All the time.
Yeah, I know the same thing because more often than not, I'm using cruise control on the interstate, and I do the same thing. I catch people, and then I go to pass them, and suddenly they speed up, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like a dick, or I was gonna say a dick swinging contest, or a pissing contest. Yeah, it's like, bruh, I am not trying. And all my cars are sporty looking, so most people don't care. But every once in a while, you get like that kid that like wants to race you or something, and they think that I'm challenging. Like I'm like, bruh,
I'm not talking.
I was miles behind you, and I caught you using cruise control. And when I just now nearly passed you, I was still using cruise control. And now that you're constantly, I'm the cruise control king.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they take off and they beat me. They're like, yeah, I'm beating. I'm like, bruh, I haven't turned cruise control. I've been using cruise control the entire time.
Have you ever made a lot of trips from here to Hattiesburg?
No.
It's a lot of hills. When you get like past like when you get back on the 49, if you take 67, you get on 40. It's a lot of this.
Yeah. So usually when I do that route, I'm 49 the whole way for the most part. Yeah. So I know.
You know what I'm talking about, that junction though.
Yeah, I've done it. I don't know, probably
like Wiggins.
30 times.
Let's call it Wiggins, right?
Yeah.
I have so many times watched it where the guy in the slow lane, you go to get around. When they go uphill, you catch up when we go past.
Yes.
When they goes down here, they
can't
blast. It's like their foot. You can watch the weight of their foot and gravity interact.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Me neither.
I had to get that out. I feel better.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you because I know you would reciprocate what I was feeling.
Yeah. It's just like, man, have some consistency. Because that's the thing. Like, if you want to get down to the basics, which is ultimately safety, like nobody wants to get into a wreck. If you track, and when I say track, I mean like cars or motorcycles. Like if you go to a track, the primary concern is safety. And one of the most fundamental things if you're tracking a car or motorcycle is predictability.
Correct.
Because on tracks, a lot of times like on motorcycles, they actually make you, if you have lights at all, they make you tape over them so you have no turn signals or brake lights or anything. Like it's a rule of the track that you just cover your shit up for safety purposes. And also, a lot of people on tracks don't have mirrors at all.
That sounds a bit counterintuitive to predictability. Explain that for me. I'm not on track.
That's the thing. When you're driving on a track, like not in a race, but just a normal track day where nobody's competing, you're just enjoying the track for what it is. Because you don't have the mirrors and turn signals and stuff, you have to drive predictably. Don't do sporadic things. Like, if you're coming into a curve, like take the line that's obvious to predict. Like don't do some sporadic shit. So like I don't know, I'm just used to doing that on a track, which is far more technical than just driving on the street. So because me and everybody else who tracks their car or motorcycle does that with no problems, I get on the street where it's just so much easier to drive predictably on the street. Like use your turn signals, go a consistent speed, like all this stuff. And then people don't. Like,
it'd be like being the dude from a Beautiful Mind, like a mathematician, and then you just watch somebody like take a crayon and try to do 2 + 2, and they just like keep writing 7, and you're like, I don't understand it.
Like,
yeah.
it's just like, I don't know. It just makes me lose respect for the person. It's just some person I don't know. It's just some random anonymous person on the street. And I'm like, man, like how are you fucking this? So it's such a simple thing that you're fucking up. Like it's not, you know, if you got some real complicated physics homework and you fuck that up, that's fine. But this is easy. This is really easy.
That was that video that you put out there. You were like, what did you say? You were like, I assume because you're on the road that you know how to put on your own pants or something. Yeah. What did you say? And you're like, I know some people who build rockets or whatever. You're like, and
I don't remember. I did.
That was a good bit. That was a really good bit.
Rocket scientist or something. I don't remember what I said.
It was good.
Yeah, but again, and that just loops me back to the original thing we were talking about, like people camping out in the passing lane without passing. It's like, what makes me so mad about it, it's really that, like, okay, you're keeping me from getting to my destination by like you're gonna slow me down by like 30 seconds or a minute. It's really not that big of a deal, like getting to the destination. The problem is I see that you're doing this thing that's so easy to not do. As a matter of fact, not doing it is as easy, if not easier, than doing it.
Correct.
Like, it would be less work to have never even merged into the passing lane to begin with. Like, if you're just going to go the same speed as that other guy, just stay there.
Just drive like you normally do. Right lane.
Just literally just do nothing. Just do nothing. But people don't. And then they cause, like, this problem, which, again, it's not that big of a problem.
Let me correct you for just a second. Have you ever seen two people side by side where there was like 10 cars behind them?
Oh, yeah, I have a video.
So that is a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, it is. But, I mean, as far as, like, you know, compared to, like, again, the ultimate thing is safety. Like, you don't want to like destroy a young family like in a car crash.
But I would think that could potentially create that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not doing this like for the
emergency vehicles.
Yes,
it's a multi
18-wheelers. Like I've seen 18-wheelers like stacked up, stuck. You know what I mean? Because they couldn't go because two people were just doing this back and forth shit.
Yeah, and like. I feel like it's obvious that those are all like problems of it, but I'm trying to get even more fundamental. Like, never mind all those details. Like, you're doing a thing that would literally be just as easy to not do it, but you're doing it and it could potentially cause all these things. The fact that you're not concerned about all these other things makes me think like you as a person are the most inconsiderate, indifferent piece of shit human. Like, because that's the thing. I'm not going to say most people, but I feel like, especially in the South, because I've driven in every corner of the country, the Southeast is the worst, I feel, in general about doing this. But it's like, I know so many people, like I know literally hundreds of people, and most of the people I know are good people. Like, I don't know a lot of people who are like, well, that dude's definitely a villain. That is an evil person.
He
that's
could
definitely
be the Joker.
Yeah, definitely trying to like eat babies or something. Like, no, like on average, most normal people are good people. But then you get on the road and it's like damn near 50% of them are just shitheads. And they do this thing, which, like I said, is not necessarily that big a deal. But it's like, it would be so easy to just not do it. And the fact that they don't care, it's the indifference. The indifference is what kills me. It's like, you're like just a terrible, terrible person at your core. Like, you might be nice, like face to face, but then you get behind the wheel and you just have utter indifference to the.
Are they indifferent or are they ignorant in the true sense of the word?
Because I guarantee you, a lot of times what happens is they get behind somebody in the right lane who's going a little bit slower than they want to go, so they get over and then they just stay there.
Yeah.
And they don't even think about what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't even think about what they learned. There should be some, like I was telling you earlier, there should be some sort of like monthly news broadcast of basic driving.
They wouldn't listen to it. Those people wouldn't.
I feel like the requirements for getting a driver's license should be about 10 times harder than what they are. Like, I feel like you should actually be able to drive before you do it.
Isn't Europe or Germany, some different other parts of Europe? I'm not sure what the difference.
England is very serious about driving.
Okay.
Like, the average just regular British person that's not a car enthusiast at all will come over here on vacation and they're like, wow, y'all really suck at driving. Like, I heard some guy the other day, a British guy, complaining about braking distance. He's like, man, you get on the interstate and everybody drives way, way too close to each other. And I'm like, thank you, I know.
Yeah, but is that because too many people drive too slow? You see what I'm saying? Like, in other words, isn't it over in like, I don't, the Autobahn, do they even have speed limits over there? Or is it super high?
From what I understand, on some places, the Autobahn, they do have speed limits because there's a large portion of the Autobahn that's no speed limit at all. You just do whatever you want.
On the interstate, if everybody abided by the stay slow to the right, I don't give a shit what speed you do on the left.
Yeah.
More or less. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That's up to you.
Because nobody's going to be in your way if everybody's doing what they should.
Correct. Right.
The problem solves itself.
And if you're doing 90 and because I mean, you know, things come up quick on you at that speed. And if somebody is legitimately in the left lane when they should be, you should be able to tell, I need to brake at this point. Right? And not smash into somebody else that's doing 75 or whatever. I get back over, you continue on 90 miles an hour. On the interstate, if you want to do 75 cartwheels in your car as you careen into some embankment, that's your prerogative, not mine.
Right, exactly. But
if you can't handle that kind of speed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But like what he was saying though is like people drive way too close to each other. I'm like, thank you. And the problem, I know I pointed this out to you, Stefan. We went on that. It was like a 2-hour drive to Florida a couple of weeks ago. If you're on the interstate and you don't drive dangerously close to the person in front of you,
they won't move.
People will get in between you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you drive at the distance you're supposed to, which is like just 70, you should be like 8 or 9 car lengths, which is like, I don't know, like 90 feet. If you got 90 feet in front of you, there's going to be 4 people with Florida tags that are going to get in between you.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, because the average person just doesn't know, like, oh, this guy. And that goes back to what I was saying. We need better training. Basically, like, a hot topic in our country right now is like gun control. Like, bruh, everybody's got a well, not everybody, but more people own vehicles than people own guns, and there's no training for the vehicles, and we're letting these people just go free with 2-ton things that are capable of like 140 miles an hour. Like, you know how much damage you can do with a 2-ton piece of machinery that will travel 140 miles an hour? Like, it's a small weapon of mass destruction.
I think people would say though at least you have to have a license to drive versus owning a gun.
Well, yeah, and
I'm pro Second Amendment.
There's really not enough training for either subjects, but
yeah, that's my thing though. It should be harder to get the driver's license. Everybody's so worried about like, oh, the background checks for guns. Like, no, what we need to be worried about is like make it harder to get a driver's license. Like, not that I want nobody to be able to drive, but it's like I want the people that do drive to have better education because like we were saying earlier, it's ignorance. People don't know, oh, hey, this is a passing lane. People call it the left lane, or what kills me is the fast lane. Like, I just realized that about 2 or 3 years ago because I used to call it the fast lane too, and it finally clicked like, oh, shit, it's a cultural thing. Here in the United States, we call it a fast lane, and that's those people who, when I complain to them, like, hey, bro, why are you camping out in the fast lane? They're like, oh, well, I was doing 80. And I'm like, so? And they're like, well, the speed limit's 70. I was going faster than the speed limit. I was doing 80 in the fast lane. I'm like, well, that's the thing. It's not a fast lane. Like, just the phrase fast lane
implies.
If I'm going faster than the limit, then I'm good.
Exactly. Like, it's such a small detail, like just an intimate like detail that you don't think has that big of a consequence, but it does. Like, everybody, even me up until very recently, calls it a fast lane, and it's not.
It's passing lane.
It's not a fast lane.
Even that news article about the bill labeled it as fast lane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which bugged me a little bit, but you know.
Yeah. And actually, I think the
what do you feel about that? You think it's gonna, if that passes, which I thought that was already a law.
It pretty much already is a law. They just don't enforce it. Like, we live in a police state where they're more concerned about generating revenue by sitting in the bushes with their matte black car that blends in with the background and just getting you with their little speed detector thing, and so they can like cash in on that thing. Like, I don't ever see anyone getting in trouble for running stop signs or like not using a turn signal. The only thing I ever see people getting pulled over for is speeding, which is an arbitrary thing. Like, speeding, oh man, you talking about phrases that kill me. Like, I hate the term fast lane, but even more, I hate the phrase speeding kills. Nope. There's never in the entire history of the universe been an autopsy where the person like pulled out a bunch of speed from the corpse and like, this is it. The speed got lodged in their heart and they died.
Wait a second.
The speed we're talking about.
I was gonna say, wait a second.
Yeah,
Hold on now.
not the drug, but the actual,
clarify
physics,
what you're talking about.
Yeah, physics term speed, like velocity, like that has never killed anyone. Like, for speed absolutely is a major variable in the event of a crash, but for speed to be a factor at all, a crash has to have occurred. For a crash to have occurred, you need either driver error, mechanical error, or like some sort of unpredictable thing like a deer jumped out in front of you or a meteorite landed or dinosaurs attacked, like whatever. But speed absolutely is absolutely impossible for speed or velocity to kill anyone. It requires an error to have already happened. And errors happen, like I said, you got mechanical failure and then shit you can't predict, like dinosaur attacks and deers jumping out and so on and so forth. But the bulk of the time it comes down to driver error, and that could be negated tremendously by better education and higher requirements on driver's license. Speed doesn't kill. That is a false no. Like if anyone, okay, I don't know how many people are listening to this, but if anyone can prove that speed kills, please challenge me. I would love to.
Devil's advocate here. Speed does negate your reaction time. I mean, that's what the comment section would reflect.
It's a huge variable. Like, and here's the thing too. There's actually, if you want to get super technical, there's two ways to say. You can say speed kills or you can say speeding kills. That's two different things. Speed is just how fast you are going. Speeding means you're driving faster than the number the government came up with.
Correct.
Speeding, is that. So,
well, there's a difference between a 20 mile an hour crash and a 60 mile an hour crash into the same object.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that speed does kill.
Like when I say this a lot, I'm like, oh, speed does not kill, and people are like, oh, they're talking about driving like too fast. I'm like, too fast is definitely a thing. Like, for example, like you'll be going down like a highway and the speed limit is say 45, and then you get to a relatively sharp curve and they'll have like, instead of a speed limit sign, it's those small yellow signs with a speed number on it. That's the suggested speed for that curve. So say the speed in the straight line is 45 miles an hour, but this curve is kind of sharp, so it'll have the yellow sign that says 20. If you're exceeding 20, a cop they can't give you a ticket for exceeding. That's just the suggested speed for this particular curve. Mm-hmm. So all that aside, you can go too fast. Like if the speed limit is 45, but your car is physically capable of say doing 60 around the curve and you do it, you are speeding, but you're not going too fast. Now say your car, the limit is 63.5 miles an hour and you go 64, your tires are going to break loose, you're going to slide off the road, and you're going to fly off the cliff into the volcano and explode, and like everyone dies. That's going too fast. I'm not saying, hey, everybody goes super, super fast. What I'm saying is speed doesn't kill and speeding doesn't kill. But at the same time, too fast is a thing. Like, don't drive recklessly by any means. Like, stay within your limits, stay within the car's limits. Like, don't just go 100 miles an hour all the time around every corner. Like, by all means, do not drive too fast. What I'm talking about is the number on the sign that the government came up with that 18-wheelers have to abide by and BMW like S1000 RR sport bikes have to abide. Like, how the fuck are you going to make the 18-wheeler and this badass sport bike abide by the same limit? Like,
because it would cost too much for two different signs.
Yeah, I mean, it would be irrational to have,
and it would cost more for education too.
Speed limits, just in general, like, are irrational. Like, speed limits make sense in an ignorant society with ignorant lawmakers, with ignorant law enforcement.
Where do you live?
Right here, like in the heart of the ignorance. Like, that is what's going on. Like, we just need better education. That's all it
overall.
comes down to. Yeah, just
overall.
Better like if people were better educated, they would just realize all these things without me having to like bitch till I'm blue in the face on Facebook.
Yeah, because it is a lot of times driver error is the major factor.
Yeah,
and you're
more
saying
often
that
than not.
driver error or not having knowledge about your vehicle and the dynamics of physics and things like that are the big factors that, when applied to speed, are ultimately what create the problem. A lot of people would say that you're a crazily reckless driver and you drive a fucking spaceship.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
What is your accident record for a lot of...
But he also goes on the track. So he's like, he's like a UFC, NFL, level of driving, right?
That's what I'm going to say.
NASCAR.
You would say that you would apply every bit of your intellect capability to driving, to understanding driving, and to prepare yourself for driving.
And when I drive, I'm paying very close. I drive with two hands on the wheel.
We already know your cell phone record. You don't even look up YouTube videos at home, much less texting.
Oh yeah, me texting and driving is like, I don't know, hell freezing over or whatever cliche you want to say. Like, and not even so much because I'm so safety conscious, but yeah, fuck a cell phone.
Well, when you drive a manual though, and I've learned this in the last 2 weeks driving, the car I have now, is that for me personally, getting started learning the stick, I don't even feel comfortable doing that. Used to in my other car, which is an automatic, I could get away while I'm driving if I wanted to.
Yeah, you can file your taxes and style your hair and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's a matter of awareness. I'm not saying it's a good idea to do, but it does happen sometimes. I usually try to wait for a stoplight or whatever, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But when you're in a manual, even at a stoplight, I'm like, I don't want to be unpresent for a second. want to lose awareness of what my feet are doing and my hands are doing, what the light is doing, what the people around me are doing, especially being in that little car, need to be super aware of what's going on. And you're just manually or by default programmed like that.
Right.
Because
He's a
that's
race car driver.
That's right. Jerry was a race car driver.
There I am.
Oh, that goes all the way full circle back
I
to his
know.
new
I
next
just
year
blew
Halloween.
everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Listeners
Yeah.
don't even know what's
No.
going on. They're not
till
even
they
on
see the photo.
I look like Les Claypool, apparently.
That's it.
So everyone
That's
knows.
it.
Per your own
His dad
admission.
found
We didn't
Primus.
fucking
His
throw
dad
that
is
on
new
you.
to Primus.
Yeah.
Jerry was a race car driver.
But speaking of which, I saw him with John Lennon's son at Voodoo Fest like 2 years ago. Fantastic. I got the album after
I
that.
want to be honest. I didn't know John Lennon had a son. How many kids does
His
he
name's
have?
Sean Lennon.
How many kids does he have?
I don't know. Yoko Ono was a freak. Who can tell?
Wow. What a band killer she was.
Yeah. But no, they were great. They were fantastic. And I got the album, listened to it, and it's like trippy far out. They switch vocal responsibilities.
They recorded an album together?
Yes.
Oh.
I
Wow.
forgot what it's called. It
I
came
thought
out
you were
about
just like
2
a
years.
collab at a live show. You're saying they did a thing. They did
They did a thing. They
Okay.
toured together, everything. We're about to find out what it is, give it proper respect. But
yeah.
it was because I didn't know that Sean Lennon was like doing stuff.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really know much about him, This
Yeah.
was my first thing hearing that Lennon about Lennon's son in any way,
I never knew he had any kids.
Yeah. Sean Lennon and Les Claypool. I want to say it's like the magical mystery tour kind of sounding thing, like a Beatles sounding album.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's real 1970s.
Monolith of Phobos.
All right, that's a little more updated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the album name.
and it was good.
It was good.
What
Oh,
did
yeah.
what did Lennon's son do? What is he? A singer or a guitar player? Or what?
Guitar singer.
Okay,
Does lead work, does rhythms,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And at Voodoo it was just they played covers of the original album of King Crimson, and just like far out stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was good, It was really interesting. But
What are your music influences live?
I got started on rock and roll when I was a kid.
Okay.
And didn't have nothing but the radio that's out here.
yeah. Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Got into classic
Thanks.
rock. I had a friend in elementary school, and his dad and him were like big into classic rock. So he started exposing me to that. And that like changed my life, when I heard,
You didn't like in your house? Didn't y'all? It wasn't.
no, we did. We started like, that would be our default, like driving to school and stuff like that. Listening to classic rock, 105.9 and
Okay.
95.3 and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. 97.9 still gets some love every now and then again. But mostly classic rock, the classic rock stations, the 2 big ones or 3 big ones, whatever at the time. And then, not mainstream, but contemporary, like I guess what you would call rock and roll rock. You start getting into the labels and then you start associating it with mainstream stuff that we talked about earlier. But people like the Chili Peppers, or like I saw a thing on Incubus today, their old stuff, was like legendary to me and all my friends. Just fantastic.
You're a little younger than me. That yeah. You're
Well, 90s, Rage Against the Machine.
right.
And different people like that, a little bit of rap, but and then eventually like blues became like, blues connected all of it for me. That's like the source for me.
Who in the blues?
Depends on how far back you go. I mean, I like people as old as Mississippi Fred McDowell and Robert Johnson, and the records that are just the guys just sitting there like we are and playing in shitty acoustics.
One track just
with a guitar they built with chicken wire.
like the scratch in the background.
You can't fake it.
No.
Like the technology wasn't there for you to fake it, and there's like these myths and these stories behind it, and it was just the precursor to the Immigrant Song for Led Zeppelin or Mississippi Queen. It all kind of stems from these.
I met him.
Who?
Leslie West.
The guy from
Mountain.
From Mountain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool. He's a good guy. He's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that song, I've been jamming it. Oh my God, because it's that blend, and it was from what I understand, a very pivotal song at the time, because it just it has that production richness to it You know, it's like on the par of where rock and roll, to me, and I've said this a million times, the 60s and 70s are like the golden age of music production because
I have said that
because
so many times.
you had
So many
the craft of guitar and drums and everything coming together to its highest level where it was exploding from the blues. It was the sun. Rock and roll is the son of blues music.
Correct.
And so much of, once you understand that, you hear the progressions and the chords and the familiar themes and the tone and the beats on the drum and the whole nine or whatever, right? So at that time, that's when the artists were getting really good at it, but also the technology, the production was at the best it was, but it wasn't so good that you could fake it yet.
Correct.
You
Wait, they
still had to
didn't-
be good.
They didn't auto-tune in the 60s?
Nope.
Right.
What?
I
And
also
people
think that the
there,
music.
there was the different mainstream, there was different popular and things like that, but there was a brief time when like the best of the best had the spotlight. Pink
Correct.
Floyd was making it, and
But the music industry was different then too. Like we talked about earlier with Rush, you got a little bit of like a few more mistakes. Like they had more artist development. That's the easiest way to say it. So you could maybe have one record that did kind of commercially, which doesn't mean you weren't good. You just didn't sell commercially, maybe, right? Then you got like round two, your second record, and maybe what did we say earlier? Rush, was it 3, 4 before they like had a huge,
Yeah,
you know,
it was- I don't know.
sales wise. I'm talking sales because that's what the business,
Yeah.
keeps.
They had a
you.
few plateaus.
They had a lot
but-
more room for
yeah.
development. Nowadays, you don't have that because the money's not there as it used to be. So I think in the 50s, 60s, 70s, not only was the talent there, like you're saying, and then technology merged with that, and you had this like explosion of good music, but there was also the economics were there that people were making money off of
Yeah,
music.
because you couldn't pirate like you can now.
Correct.
Like I will
correct.
openly admit, I pirate all my music.
It's such a weird dichotomy to me because nowadays it's like, and that's what technology is supposed to do, right? It drops the cost. It drops the cost to make music, which then also drops what the end consumer pays for that music. And the internet makes you pay zero for it now, even though it is quote unquote illegal to pirate. But even apps like Spotify, you can read articles for days about how artists hate that because while you can get an art, you could record a song, we could fart into a microphone, call it an album, and you could download it in Japan. What's the furthest place from here? I don't know.
Australia.
That sounds like a really far away place.
Yeah.
You can download it in from the instant we get it on the internet, you can download it in that country now, right? That is crazy.
and people will pay for it.
No,
Like if-
actually, they won't. They won't pay for it. They'll get it for free.
Yeah, I ain't paying
Maybe
for no-
one person pays
Well,
for it, then
either
they
way,
upload
you
it for
can
free.
do either way.
But what I'm saying is distribution now.
Mm-hmm.
There's zero cost in it. It's all free if you got an internet connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it blows my mind that record labels still exist. Like what?
Correct.
Well,
How is that a
it's
thing?
scaled
it should
down
be
to
more.
the big four.
It is, and
Yeah.
it should be more marketing influence because when you do that, there now everybody can do it. So now you have to compete with everybody, and you have to get awareness, right? Like if you made the next greatest album in the world. Granted, we live in the same town and I know you, but like if you live somewhere else, how do I find out about that? Because now everybody's out there. Same with podcasting. Like, how do I find your podcast? How do I find my, you got to get exposure. There's got to be some way you got to cut through the mold or the masses or whatever. That's the new game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like that's a big problem, but I also can see the actual good side is that is like you mentioned.
No, that's a
earlier
great,
about
I think that's a great
the-
side. I wasn't saying that was a bad side.
well, there are negatives to it, like the lack of money and so on and so forth. But to me, like it forces only the best to rise to the top. Like when the market is so oversaturated, the people that rise to the top must be, if they're not just marketing the hell out of themselves, they're really good.
Well,
Like,
they're
you
still
gotta-
connected to the ones like you said. There still are some, the big four. There's still some out there that do that. And you're right. You have to step your game up, but it gives everybody the opportunity. But it does drive down the economics of it. But if you're creative and if you notice like the bands who are out now that are quote unquote big, they've had to become super creative about how they make money, right? They don't just make money off the record. That's like the last thing they make
Right.
money off of. If
You
they
gotta have
even
different
do.
outlets now.
Well, yeah. Now you ever notice that a ticket to a live concert has gone up a little bit, right? It's
Right.
going up a lot. So that's how they make money now. merchandise, which that's not a new thing. Signature products, there's artists out there. I read a thing. I don't know if y'all know Periphery. The band Periphery,
Yeah,
Misha Mansour. There was an article I read not too long ago about him. Like, he does a lot of what do you call it, artist signature model stuff.
Oh, right.
As a way for him to make money. There's certain places that they can't tour without losing money. Like, it's a different ball game than it was in 1988 when you went and played on Sunset Strip, got signed, and did a bunch of coke and made fucking millions and millions of dollars. It's not the same ball game.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, as a y'all two are on a way different level as far as music goes. Like, y'all are talking way over my head, like technically and stuff. But as just purely a person who enjoys music, I love the current state of things, because my thing is I'm gonna pirate I'm gonna pirate the hell out of your music, and if you're good, I'm gonna drive for 6 hours and pay so much to come see you live, and I'm gonna buy all your shirts.
And see what you just said though, that's the new model. Yeah. You're the end consumer. You always have to be focused on the end consumer in that regard. There's no way you can't shut it down. You shut one site down, the next is going to pop up. There's too many forest fires that's going to spring up.
It's easier to not fight it.
Correct.
So much easier.
It's called embrace it in that situation.
Roll with the flow.
And when your money can go to so many other places, Amazon and all the other places that we can just digitally send our money to, music unfortunately starts getting it goes further and further down the line of where the consumer is going to put the money, especially if they can have it for free.
Correct. But so again, then you don't charge for the music. The music is what attracts the attention to you, and you charge, like you said. How far will you drive, and how much will you pay to see that band live if you like them?
Right.
A significant amount. Some people won't. Some people are still going to just download music. That's all they're going to do. They're never going to give you a dime, and so what? That's just what it is.
To give you, I have a really good real life example of this. I was pirating music one time, and
you're going to go to jail for this, by the way.
2007. I was just downloading just whatever, all kinds of stuff. And I discovered some band that was essentially a local band from Canada. Liked them so much, drove from Biloxi to Canada to see them.
Wow.
Bought every shirt they had, and then left.
That's killer.
And then I've seen that band 7 times total, and they're a Canadian band. They were they broke up. They don't even exist anymore.
But see, that's the power of that, what we just talked about, to the good.
And I only discovered them through pirating music. Had I not been like pirating the hell out of things, I would have never discovered them to begin with. So I downloaded their music for free, and then proceeded to spend, I don't know, I've probably spent about $2,000 on that band. If I was buying their music, I'd probably have spent like $40.
Right.
It's actually if you're good, if you're truly good, you can make more money out of people like me who actually give a shit.
Right.
I mean, maybe the average person doesn't give that much of a shit. I'm kind of a crazy person.
Well, you like music.
Yeah,
you're wearing a Rush T-shirt right now.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Old as hell,
that wasn't an accident.
You're wearing a Rush
not limb
cover on your body.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the guy who's just downloading music because he wants to like have something playing while friends come over, and he doesn't really give a shit about it anyway. I mean, you're never gonna get that guy.
Yeah, he would have never bought your shit to begin with. So Metallica, calm down.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There was a trivia question last night when we were doing trivia, and they asked this bass player. They named like 3 guys, right? We're all former bass players for this popular heavy metal band. We're like, Metallica. Who's the other ones? Who are the other heavy metal? You know what I mean?
Bands that have had that many bass players you're talking about?
No, just that are popular heavy metal. Like, if they're talking about like,
super mainstream,
that are like heavy metal, like Metallica is. Wwho else is there out there?
Pantera.
Yeah, but they're not nearly as mainstream as Metallica.
They had a platinum record.
But I mean, still,
they were also short-lived, though.
You could play Pantera for just
only
anybody on the street, and I think.
Well, I take that wrong. That's not right. No, because of Phil, they had a whole falling out.
Well, how many years did Pantera have, though?
Shit, a lot. They put out a lot of records.
Like more than 5?
I can't quote it, but yes, close. Yeah.
Okay.
Google it. You got the interwebs.
That's enough. That's enough time, I guess, to have a couple different. Those are probably good people.
Yeah, and they were way heavier than Metallica when they had a platinum record. I would say Metallica's big records, like Metallica's "Kill 'Em All," wasn't a huge commercial success. I don't think it went platinum. Vulgar Displays of Power went platinum.
Oh wow! So Pantera was active for 22 years.
Yeah, they were around a
didn't
long time.
realize that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I couldn't quote it, but yeah, they were around
How many
a
albums
while.
did they put
A
out?
lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And they were
I thought
super
his-
heavy compared to Metallica.
Yeah.
Way heavy. Metallica didn't get like mainstream until the Black Album, and everybody, all their core fans hated them for
that's
that
the
shit.
sellout point. Was the Black
Yeah,
Album?
yeah,
like-
because they had Nothing Else Matters, I think, on that one or something.
Yeah, I'm not even a core. I would say I'm like a casual Metallica fan. I
Me
guess.
too.
And I'm
Me too.
definitely Ride the Lightning is number one.
Now that was
Ride the-
before.
Yeah, that was before the sellout
Yeah.
point. I'm not one of those people like, oh, I love Metallica and I hate them after the Black. And I'm like, nah, everything is whatever. But yeah, definitely before.
No,
like,
so-
Ride the Lightning to me is like
Yeah.
number one.
Yeah. You can play them though and hear the changes. Like Kill 'Em
Oh,
All
yeah.
is different than Ride the Light. They're still in the same ballpark, but when the Black Album hit, it was like a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
Totally different sound.
Yeah. It's essentially two different bands, and like, oh, it's one of those things. It's like food. Like people who are like diehard, they love crab, and like if you like imitation crab, meat, you fucking suck. I'm like, man, I know it's way different, but imitation crab meat, like without comparing it to some external imitation crab meat's pretty damn good.
It's not bad, but it does suck compared to the real shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I agree. But like, if you don't compare it to that, because like it really isn't that. So why are you comparing? Because I've heard so many people like, I don't like imitation crab meat because it's not as good as actual. Well, what if instead of calling it imitation crab meat, we just called it like something all completely original? Then would you compare it? No, because you wouldn't be associating it. You know, like I don't know.
How to like your lexicon, Lizana. It's confusing me.
Tell you what, I'm about to go take a piss, and my drink's been empty for like
Me
20
too.
minutes. Y'all want to take a break
Do you
for a little
edit?
bit?
Or
We can chop it if we want to step away.
Yeah,
All right,
I was
yeah,
gonna
that's
try
good.
to like in a
Pee-pee
minute,
break.
like look at you and be like,
Just move around
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit. And
how many minutes are we in?
holding it. We're about an hour in.
Okay, all right, that's good too. So. Yeah.
And I'm also gonna, just as a reminder point, to look up those hemp cars that you were talking
Oh
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was
I kinda
just
wanna-
one. Like some dude was real dedicated, made a 100% hemp car.
Yeah.
It might not have been 100%. Like I
you-
said, I think they might have still like traditional tires, but the
Yeah.
whole it was a hemp chassis. I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
A hemp chassis.
And probably the seats and everything
Oh
else.
yeah, it was all
so-
upholstered, and what you could tell was hemp. Like the seats looked like hemp, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
But imagine if a major car company got a hold of that and actually produced it and offered it and just allowed people to have the option to do it, and it was viable, and then they just kept on going with it and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like,
Well, it was
man,
like
because
you,
it runs off of hemp fuel too, right?
yeah, it was 100% like hemp, from the structural part to the comfort features to the fuel was hemp. The whole damn thing.
Which is
Hemp
not the
makes
first
fuel.
time hemp has been
Oh
used
yeah,
to make
really good
cars.
fuel too.
The first Model Ts, right? I think some of the parts were made out of hemp.
Yeah, the original cars ran on alcohol. Like
Yeah.
nowadays, we're just now realizing, like, oh shit, E85, like alcohol is really good. The first combustion engines ran on alcohol. Gasoline didn't come into play until, again, major corporations at the time were like, oh shit, we got all this gasoline. Like, because
Yeah.
I think they were like, I don't know the exact story, but I think it's something along the lines of big companies started drilling for oil, and they really realized oil was a good lubricant, and they would like run it through these processes. They would create gasoline, and they accidentally, like all scientific discoveries, they accidentally realized, oh shit, this shit's really combustible once
Yep.
you run it through this process. And they're like, we have this gasoline as a byproduct, so let's start using the gasoline since it's a byproduct. Since so they
Same
moved
thing
away
as
from the
natural gas.
alcohol. Yeah, and then of course it was some large companies that started using gasoline as the fuel. So even though alcohol made more sense and was better, just like when timber overtook hemp, then gasoline overtook alcohol, and then the gasoline combustion engine became the standard. And to this day, combustion engine still the primary fuel is gasoline.
Yeah.
But now like new, more modern vehicles, like Ford does it pretty much in all their recent vehicles. They're flex fuel now. Like you can go to gas stations that have E85, which is E85 means it's up to 85% ethanol, E for ethanol. Like you can do that now. They're like, oh, look how good on the environment. It's corn juice. Like a bunch of farmers grow a bunch of corn, then we take the corn, we extract the ethanol from it, we put in gasoline. It's a renewable energy. It's no longer fossil fuels. Like, look how cool we are. It's like, we're simply coming full circle. The combustion engine started on alcohol, as far as I know. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you verify that. Like, you can look it up
Well,
online.
no,
but-
I mean, we've seen corporations that buy patents out from early not adaptations, but early creations of electronic vehicles, you know, and then they just shelve them or whatever, or buy the rights to whatever. The whole industry is embedded with each other, and they make the rules, basically. You
So
know,
whoever-
and they have the money and they have the power.
Yeah, it's basically whoever already has the most money, whatever they're into, that's going to be what's taken over. So if the guy with less money has a more efficient way of doing it, he's just going to lose. And then eventually in the future, people are going to be like, oh, wow, the electric motor makes so much more torque and is so much more efficient than the combustion engine. Meanwhile, like you said, there were electric cars like a long, long time ago. They didn't hold a candle to our modern ones, but still the fact that like back in like 1915, some dude had an electric car and like we're just now being like, oh, electric car is a new thing and it's really cool. Like, no, like capitalism just kind of pushed the evolution to a certain direction, and we're just, yeah, it's a real damper on efficiency in the long run.
Even with electric cars though, nowadays though, like, I mean, I know you understand where does that electricity come from?
It depends. I mean,
Correct.
it comes from the battery, but it's like, how did that power get into the battery to begin with?
Correct.
Like,
so where did it come from?
More often than not, fossil fuels. Like
That's my point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I remember like hearing about it at first and being like, yeah, this is gonna be so great. It's awesome. Blah, blah. And I'm not smart. And then you think about it, it's like, well, where does that electricity come from? Oh, because some charging station. Okay, where does that come from? You know what I mean? Burn the fossil fuels, coal, some kind of, whatever. It's until they figure out like strictly solar, strictly wind, or a combination of tidal, wind, so renewable shit. It doesn't matter. You can call it what you want. Tesla can make whatever they want. That's great. But if you're still plugging it into a power station that comes from a coal plant or burning of some kind of whatever, it's not better.
Yeah, the
It's
real
just
deal
not.
breaker is the environmental harm it causes producing the electric car. That's the kicker.
You know what I just heard that like was total fucking sucked is like Bitcoin is supposed to be the the big revolutionary thing in one way, but I never would have even thought, because I'm dumb as a brick, is like the carbon footprint that it takes to mine those things.
Oh yeah, it's super inefficient. That's why there's so many other ones now. Like Ethereum is way more power efficient than Bitcoin, and so on and so forth. So
Really, I didn't know that.
yeah, Bitcoin was the first one. Is the
I
most
know
primitive
that.
one.
Yep, I know that, and I know it's meant to be scarce.
Yeah, there's nothing like when you compare all the cryptocurrencies together. The only cool thing about Bitcoin is that it was first.
But
that's
but-
it. There's
but
nothing else. good
Ethereum
about
or whatever you said. Ethereum, I believe that's what you said.
Yeah, Ethereum's a good bit more. And then there's ones
It's
that
more
are
power efficient too.
Yeah, and there's
Okay.
newer ones from Ethereum that are even more power efficient.
Because
than
the
Ethereum.
the thing that's cool about them is that the fact that it takes computing power to generate a new coin, right?
Right. Yeah, and it takes computing power to verify the transactions. That's why cryptocurrency is so secure. It's
Correct.
It checks, double checks, triple checks, and quintuple
Decentralized.
checks. Yeah, it just like if guy A sends money to guy B, then the whole entire network is aware that happens and all.
Right.
So it's super hard to steal people's money.
Right.
And which is hilarious because most people, when they first hear about cryptocurrency, one of their biggest reserves about is like, oh, it's all digital. Somebody could steal it. And they don't take the time to think that all your US dollars are digital for the most part. You get,
When's the last time you got a paycheck?
you get direct deposit. And
Yeah.
then you swipe your credit card, you pay
Right.
through PayPal, or
Right.
you go on Amazon. Like it's
Right.
all digital. And
Yeah.
people are like,
Mark of
oh,
the
right.
demon.
And then the second big reserve, they're like, well, I don't like it because it's not backed by anything. Like, bruh. Like,
Bro.
yeah, like we got rid of the
Yeah.
we abolished the gold standard a long time. The dollar is it's all based
slow
on
down with
faith.
all your fancy facts. What do you mean gold standard? Yeah, it's like the US dollar, it's right here. I'm holding it. It's like, okay, well, what does it do? Well, I buy it at the store. Okay, but back for a little more abstract than that. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't like your fancy thinking. You better slow down with all that.
Yeah. Don't you dare question
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Like,
But I get it. I mean, the dollar has obviously more legitimacy than
Oh, yeah.
Bitcoin does right now.
yeah,
you know what
it's
I mean?
definitely more universally accepted. But in the long run, though, I think cryptocurrency will eventually take over, even if it's another 50 years. But at some point,
some version
just,
of it.
Yeah,
you know.
it's just like
It'd be like saying I think AOL is going to be the biggest ever.
Well, I feel like saying that it's
No.
not eventually going to take over is being like, I don't know, 200 years ago when like you got your horse and buggy and you see some dude come up on his iron horseless carriage, you know, like Model T, whatever.
Was it
like,
200 years ago?
I don't know when it was.
It was like early 1900s.
Yeah, it was like 150 years ago or something like when.
It's like 4 billion years
Well, no,
ago.
you got to think when the Model T came out, the cool thing about the Model T was that that was the beginning of the assembly line. There were plenty of vehicles that were out before the Model T. The Model T is just the first mass-produced one.
Right.
But anyway, though.
But it was still early.
Imagine like you're living in the times where horse and buggies are the standard and you see some guy like clicking by on his maxed out at 15 miles per hour combustion engine, what's it with those wagon wheels they had back then and being like, that's just a fad.
Yep.
That is what being alive right now and seeing cryptocurrency and be like, that's just a fad. Because like most people see it as purely an investment thing. It's only an investment thing out of pure coincidence. It was never meant to make money off of it's supposed to be just used to buy candy bars on a day-to-day basis. Right. It's supposed to be, that is what it's meant for. And in the long run, it will eventually get there. In the meantime, you can capitalize on the fact that it's a hot thing right now and it's like exponentially growing.
A lot of people made a lot of money off of Yahoo in the early 90s. Yeah. It's not the biggest search engine anymore.
Yeah, like what the hell is Yahoo? Like a drink, I guess.
Exactly.
Like not even real chocolate.
Exactly.
No, like,
but searching for shit on the internet is
correct.
The greatest thing
Again,
ever.
Bitcoin,
No, but search engines are still a viable thing, meaning that, like you just said,
Bitcoin
you may have a fuck ton of money invested in Bitcoin, and you may have made a lot of money in Bitcoin, and you may still be making a lot of money in Bitcoin right now, and then all of a sudden it's like product XYZ, is the next Google, and your money was in Bitcoin. It's like I lost all of it, but XYZ is still cryptocurrency. Like you're saying, it's the same thing. It's just a different, more efficient, better suited, 2.0 kind of thing.
Yeah, basically Bitcoin's the caveman, and eventually we're going to get the rocket ship.
Correct.
But even in the meantime, like whatever's the most technologically advanced one right now, when it's all settled, when the dust clears, it's probably not going to be any of them that exist right now currently.
I would definitely believe that.
Because it's taken so long for this whole investment craze to settle that technology, it comes out exponentially. So by the time all this investment shit calms down and we can finally just use Bitcoins to buy candy bars or cryptocurrency to buy candy bars, that's going to be a few years from now, and there's going to be a new one out. So
well, it's already happening.
Yeah.
No. You can buy candy bar. They've been using it, certain people, certain places to buy things since like 2014.
Yeah. Occasionally you'll see Craigslist ad like local stuff, like some dude selling like a barbecue grill, and he's like, hey, give me like $80 or $80 worth of any cryptocurrency. Like, which is funny because it's still, no matter which cryptocurrency it's always $80 worth.
Correct. So it's still the reference point. Yeah, we're not there's there. No doubt. There's no doubt.
We'll be there when we stop using the dollar to reference what cryptocurrency. Once cryptocurrency is the standard, then we will have made it.
It's too volatile right now to use it.
Absolutely.
There's no, that's why it's more attractive as an investment tool, because you can put $20 into it one day, not right now, but a couple months ago, you can put $20 into it, and that $20 can turn into $50 or something, in a day. Yeah. So that's good in an investment. That's not good when you own it and you want to buy the candy bar.
Yeah.
Yesterday it cost me, $20 worth of this cryptocurrency to buy this, and tomorrow it costs $60. That's not good when you're purchasing.
Yeah. Back in November, it was fluctuating. It was so volatile that it would change. The value of one single Bitcoin could actually change by about $1,000 within like 10 minutes.
Right.
So at 1 minute, like it's worth like $15,100.
It's a new age gold
and 10
rush.
minutes later, it was worth $16,000 even. And 10 minutes later, it was worth $14,500. Like, so in 20 minutes, it was just like absolutely insane. So as a person who like day traded at the time, if you were good at it, you could have made millions.
People did.
People did. Yeah. I made $40,000 in December, and then I lost $45,000 in January. But yeah.
That's the only thing you can say to that is
Yeah, it was a fun ride though. I definitely learned a lot. So
and you're still not totally giving up on it too. I mean,
that's still my primary thing, even after having like completely lost all that. So yeah, it's still there. But yeah, I gotta pee.
Yeah.
Go ahead and
I'm
pee.
actually out of
Yeah.
the beer now again.
Did
so,
we make it to a good point?
We can step away for again if we'd like.
I'm good. Yeah.
I was just gonna let it roll and get another beer.
Okay. All right. I didn't know where was that.
I actually kind of got to pee again too, to be honest.
I waited as long as I could.
Yeah.
Is this normally how you do it though? You just chop it back up after you're done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, if it requires it, usually don't take as many breaks. But like when
Well,
I
we take
did
it pretty
when I
heavy.
did the one with Jim Pinkston, I was like,
Dude, that's the one
I had rehydrated like all
We all
day.
drinking a lot?
No, I was. We weren't drinking at all. We didn't have any alcoholic beverage. We were just chilling and talking.
Okay.
He was sitting where you're sitting.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just like, he got done with the story, and I was like, well, hey man, I got to go pee real quick. Is that cool? And I think I left that part in. Like I edited the silent time from when I was away. Yeah, you gotta go, folks.
Oh, okay.
We just kept rolling.
I listened to that. I was and I wish I was so blown away. That was like when are we recording still?
Yeah, we're still
I was
recording.
like, that episode when I found your podcast, and then I listened to a couple, and Dave Elliott. I don't know which order I got, Dave Elliott or Jim Pinkston first, but when I got to the Jim Pinkston one and the Dave Elliott, but the Jim Pinkston one too,
Hey, you want to bring me another one too, Anthony, when you can?
I was blown away. Honest to God, like I'm gonna toot your horn for you. I was like, you were doing what I initially envisioned doing, and I don't know if you did it on purpose or it was like because at the time I didn't know you were a musician, you know, and I was like, you fucking got Jim on like his own words, not like some, you know, bullshit like I see it in quotations in a fucking blog or like on.
I just sat him down and
You
recorded
sat and
him.
talked to him,
Talked to him.
which is why like I don't like. And this is a we talked about this earlier, like a Joe Rogan you mentioned earlier. I don't think of these as interviews, and I don't want to have a podcast that's an interview.
I usually have to use that language just so people understand.
Correct.
People aren't as familiar.
Correct.
I mean, on a local level
Correct.
about
Correct.
podcasts and stuff,
But it's the better term in my mind, and I know you already know just by hearing you say it, it's a conversation, and that's way cooler than an interview. An interview is, you know, and we're splitting hairs here, you know, but what you did with Jim, because I grew up like going to Jim's fucking music store, and I can hear his pitches right now in my head, like, you know, it was just
certainty.
his cadence,
His
well, we're
showmanship
gonna
is
show you the
He
next.
was not.
Dude was a salesman, man.
He was not only he not only know the industry, but he also worked in the industry. He was a professional musician. You know,
He was a professional musician. He was a professional businessman. He was a professional.
27 years in
Yeah,
business,
dude,
which
that's
is way
clout.
past statistics of
And
what they-
I don't know who's listening to this. I don't know what year you're hearing this. Jim was running that business in that music store during the internet, during Musician's Friend. Like when that started happening, you could go into the store. I remember this, and you would like look at something and think, "Oh, I know what this is online." And Jim had to compete with that, and he did. Like right off the bat, it wasn't no secret. He would say like, "Yeah, I know it's like it's cost this much online," you know. And Jim was a salesman. He's like, "But where are you going to bring it when it doesn't work?" You know what I mean? Like he sold the fact that he was local. You know what I mean? Way
And
better than
that. He had services for fixing.
Correct.
And he had,
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
a little bit of everything, and he had
whether or not that
established
plays
local
out in the long
clientele.
exactly, and it did play out in his while he was running
Sure,
the business.
perfect for this
Yeah.
area. You know,
All of us local
slower to
dudes
develop
knew
and-
like that's where you went.
right.
It was cool. So when I heard that you had him on, that was the interview. I was like, "Fuck, dude, this dude Stefan's got it going on." Like he hit the nail on the head. I didn't know you played music, and then I listened to that, and dude, that was it. And then it really hit home when he passed away.
2 months later, after we
It was
recorded that.
it was weird.
And he says on the podcast, you know, I'm not going to die tomorrow or whatever, so then next week or whatever. And I was listening to it the day he died. I listened back to it.
Yep.
And it's about 10 minutes in, and he says that, and I just I turned it off. I was walking around like, you know.
Whoa.
It was
Yep,
crazy.
it
'cause
was.
I forgot he said that. I didn't
Nope.
know. We talked for an hour and a half or whatever it is. You forget.
But,
what you say,
just for a minute, imagine like a minute ago we walked through Anthony's particular story,
Right.
where he described a lot of particular things.
Yeah.
So imagine mine. I'm talking about like, I want to get into podcasting and it's all this big thing or whatever. Then I find your thing. And then I see it online. I'm like, and I text, my buddy Anthony, and we have this little back and forth. And then buddy. my background is music and local bands and all this thing. And then you have him on, which is something that I would have loved to have done. And then he passes away. For me, it was even a shorter time frame. From the time I heard your podcast online to when he passed away was even shorter than what'd you just say? You interviewed him here and it was what, 2 months later? Mm-hmm. To the time frame from when I heard your podcast to when he passed away was even shorter than that. Mm-hmm. And when I heard your thing, I was like, dude, that was such a good idea, such a great thing. I listened to all of it, and Jim painted such a good picture of his musical career, his business career.
He's a speaker.
Go to his store and buy something from him, and you've heard him do that. Oh, yeah. And he did all of that. So that's cataloged. Where else is his story cataloged? The
last one, him working decades in the business, both from the show business side of a producer, a seller, and working in it for decades. And I'm pretty sure I have the last thing on record that was publicly released.
But what he was saying, when before that? When was the last time?
Not only that you're the last, but where else? And I could be wrong. Don't really give a shit. But where else is his story on audio
produced in that manner?
Correct. Yeah, besides yours.
Really correct. Yeah. Where? Where?
True. I never
when I heard your
local news clips, 5-minute clips and stuff like that.
And no disrespect to the news like that, but that's bullshit.
Here. That's how it was done.
No, that's just how it is. Yeah, that's the business.
Those are interviews too. That's 5-minute interviews.
Correct. That's the difference between watching a sitcom that's what is it 30 minutes and it's actually 22 minutes of it, and then there's commercials in between.
It's a long format interview in some cases, because in his case I have specific questions I want to ask him,
which is great.
Right.
That's my point. My point being is that you got his take on him per the questions that you asked. It's just good, man. And nobody that doesn't live here gives a shit, probably. And if you're not even in the local music scene in that era that he had that store, you may not care. Maybe somebody hears this 100 years from now or 50 years from now that for whatever reason, if
you're interested in the art of business or music, you have something to learn here,
or both, you ever read an article or a story on Facebook or wherever that talks about Biloxi in the 1920s. I saw one not too long ago. It shows Howard Avenue and it's all tore up, and it was converting it from rail cars to paved streets because now cars are a thing, you know, and you see
and
you
can see it in the environment.
Correct. The pictures said everything. Well, from whatever part in history now forward, you're going to have audio / video / whatever technology goes to next with augmented reality and 3D, all this 3D bullshit. This could be 3D recorded at one point, right? And people could watch that if we was doing that. That technology's
just
here now.
Just animation alone, the easier and the more realistic it can be. You could just recreate the images of us doing it.
Yep. So if anybody ever wants to, for whatever reason, know about music in the Gulf Coast at that time, they can go look up your interview of Jim, and he paints a really good picture of that. And I just, like I said, when I heard that, I was like, holy shit, that's I'm super selfish in that respect of it. I know most people won't that doesn't play music on the Gulf Coast may not relate to it in that way, but I did. And I like when he passed away, Taylor Roberts, I don't even know who that is. If you know who that is, he's a local musician, plays in a band or whatever. He put a lot of stuff out because he worked for that guy. A lot of people that I know on Facebook put out posts about Jim's passing that I could relate to because, again, being in that little scene, right? And I think that if you're in that scene now, it's super valuable that you got that interview at that time and you didn't know that he was obviously going to pass away that quickly.
I thought I was going to talk to him. I was excited because I thought I had opened the door with Jim Pinkston. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's about to retire. He, is right over there.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking that I'm going to hear more of the life story and the business and just different things or whatever,
Yep.
Because when I just basically went in and told him all the things that you said about him basically and said, I hear you're retiring and I came because I wanted to pay my respects and thank you. I've spent a lot of my first dollars as a musician here. And there were times when I went in not knowing what I needed or what I wanted, and just read an article I thought and
Oh, man.
said, hey, you
Oh,
know,
I could tell you so many stories.
I think I need this for my acoustic guitar.
Yes.
I just read and I haven't ever bought one, and I've had one for like, he goes, thank goodness you haven't. And then he would just tell me, and he's like, don't waste your money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that what you just said, and I know what you're saying more than the actual words you just said, right? That means a lot. You know, for local people here that are musicians.
And I think he believed that. I think he believed I was genuine in what I said, and he was just immediately agreed to it.
How did you get him in here? I mean, not that that's that big, humongous of a feat, but did you just, first of all, why?
That's what I'm saying.
Why and then how?
I just talked to him just like that. That's what I said to him. Just stuff like that. And he...
Like in person, or did you call him?
Yeah, that's
no. I went down to his store.
Yeah.
And I said, I heard you were retiring. I came to pay my respects and thank you. I spent some of my first dollars here, all the stuff I just said. And then he was like very humbled about it, you know, and we talked for a little bit, and I said, you know, I know you're going to be busy with a lot of your business and stuff closing down, but I've got a show that I do of just sitting down with local, you know, businessmen and artists and stuff like that. And I would really appreciate it if you have the time to. He was like, oh, I would love to come and do your podcast. That sounds great. He's like, I do have to wrap up with all my stuff, blah 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 blah, but we'll make it happen. And we had to push it back about 3 times, but I kept going down. He said, yeah, we'll make it happen. And eventually we just made it happen.
That's so cool, man.
last
That's so
minute,
cool.
too.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Because
that's killer.
he kept staying in business longer and longer
Yeah.
and longer.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's
know,
killer to me. And I'm giving you the total outside perspective. I didn't even know that you were related to Anthony at all. Like we this came about because I was telling you at Pulpit Jack's house one day.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this other podcast, blah, blah. You're like, yeah, that's my cousin. I'm like, what? You know, really?
Yeah, he already knew about Coastal Noise.
Yeah,
before
I told you the organic story, which I told you earlier about how my other buddy, like, I thought I had a unique idea.
Good idea.
Yeah, I got a good idea, and I found out, like,
Entrepreneur.
son of a bitch, you know, I'm not original, you know. And then my buddy texted me back, you know, he was like, you know, Danny Tanner had, you know, Wake Up San Francisco, douche, you're not new to this, you know. And I was telling him that story, and he's like, that's my cousin. I'm like, no, it's not. He's like, yeah, it is. I was like,
yeah, really happened.
I was like, that's weird. Small
and
world
speaking
after
of which,
all.
in connection to all that very same stuff, I was telling you just a couple weeks ago about how I was surprised being 5 years in, because I had a point. I've been busy with other stuff, finishing up. I'm actually tomorrow about to hand out the first copy of a book that I wrote to Travels to India that I've been working on for a year and a half or whatever it's been. And the podcast and stuff I haven't done a podcast since I did one of myself that I was going to do like in 2018, start doing solos, like kind of the first ever solo things, and just do that as an experiment for the year.
Right.
But my last like actual guy was Abraham Partridge, and
That you interviewed.
that I interviewed, and that was like in October, I want to say, or something like that. So,
Yeah.
you know, this is the first thing that I've done. And I specifically, like I was telling you, I was like, I'm surprised, like I kind of let it go, hoping that like maybe I would just get a random spark of something, and that's you now.
That's
And
weird. That's
how great
so
is
weird.
this conversation
That
that
is
we've
so
had
weird.
enjoyed
That's
this
so weird.
the whole time.
I've had that experience.
and I just let
though.
it go. I didn't do anything.
That's weird because listen, and I'm going to give you the other end of the story that you can't. There's no way you can know. So when the Jim Pinkston, the Dave Elliott, which we need to maybe talk about that for a split second. Like I see like this is an idea that's in my mind, and then I look it up and you've already been doing it. So I'm like, wow, that's so fucking cool, you know? And outside looking at him, like there's already this other guy doing it. Then Anthony tells me that y'all are related, and it's just, I don't know, man. Shit starts connected on this whole other different thing. And then I look at your page and I'm like, you're doing this. It's way before I was into this, or even not into it, but thought about doing it. Right? You've been doing it since what year? You told me 20.
We're going on 5 years in June.
Yeah. So I'm like looking at all your stuff. You did all the Crest interviews. I listened to all that stuff. Remember when Crest
Live?
Yeah, Chase Taylor and Joseph Ball and all that.
Still see him from time to time.
I know all those guys. I know all those guys from music. Played there a few times. And then I'm watching, and then I'm looking at your like content when you post it or whatever, and then I see it like trail off, and I'm like, I don't know what happened. Like, what are you? And then I heard in a couple of you were doing other things, and I didn't know what those were. So now I'm hearing tonight, because we're here, that you're doing a book or something?
Book, travels.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I try to travel, and I love to write, and writing has always been a thing that I've kind of, through testing and everything through school, I've always scored really high on.
Okay.
But I've never been particularly interested, and then podcasting brought like a verbal thing to it.
Correct.
And then when I realized that writing as an exercise is just like when we were talking about playing guitar, it's kind of hard to do when you have a lot of other stuff going on in your life. But when I actually would sit down to start writing things, I would
shut off. That's what I do.
It was like a skill, and it was, you kind of shut off, and you like, most of this book was written longhand, which like to me was crazy, because I always was trying to figure out, do you do it by longhand or do you use these computers and the technology? And I've done both, but there was something about just like being on those travels and writing with a pen. I had a physical notebook, and it was dedicated to the very thing that I bought it for, and I used it, and I just
when you say your travels, you went places.
I went to India. The book's about like a precursor to me going to India, meeting this woman who I was working with at a psychiatric inpatient hospital, and come to find out she lived in India for 20 years in the Himalaya mountains. So she wanted to go back for possibly like the last time of her life, and asked me if I wanted to go. And for me, out of college, India, for whatever reason, was the #1 world travels place I wanted to go to, because it just seemed fucking alien. You asked earlier what New Orleans, India, New Delhi is like the total opposite polar end, okay, of where we are right now.
Correct.
And so I went there. We went there for a couple weeks, and I met all these people from all around the world. You meet people from the Netherlands and Australia and other parts of the U.S., and they're all there in India for whatever reasons. Spiritual. A lot of people go there for spiritual reasons, but also because of the people and the food. You know, there's all these reasons, and it's pretty cheap. And they're in this weird transition from third world to first world. And I went there and just had my mind blown from one place to another, going from where the Dalai Lama lives. I went to where the Dalai Lama lives, to major cities like New Delhi and Mumbai and things like that. And I just wrote the whole time, because the woman that I was with was super interesting, like one of the most interesting people I'd ever met. Out of my first job out of college, I had this crazy, a crazy place to me. I'd never been exposed to the stuff that I'm seeing, drugs and people being brought off the streets on salvia and stuff, and hallucinating for hours, and I just knew that I had something on my hands. I said, better document it. So I did, and I just kept working on it, and I kept in touch with the people. I call them, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? Like, got their stories, and kind of putting together this thing of like, why India? Because a lot of people, they hear you going to India and they like, oh, you better be careful and this and that.
They say the same thing.
Bahamas, like,
they say the same thing about New Orleans.
Like,
yeah,
Florida. I love beaches and stuff like that, but it's like the default stereotypical thing. And I've been there, done that, and we live here, and we get that, and it's accessible to us. So I want something a little more extreme, a different culture. Get out of the bubble. We're a very big. I've said this a million times. We're a bubble. North America's a bubble. We got white people above us, other white people, and it's basically, if anything ever happens to us, they're pretty much guaranteed to have to get involved, because what else are they going to do? It's Canada,
right?
And then South America, that's in between those two things. What do you got? We got our enemies over across a giant sea, and then on the other way, we've got more white people. It's Europe. It's all of that. So we're in this bubble, and we get this news pumped into us, these major news outlets and these corporations that take over in this own political system, and we get caught in this little thing of just what our culture and society is, and we get stuck in that. So we're in this little, so being where we are situated is great from a strategic standpoint.
Yes.
But then you also get that
cultural is what you're talking about.
You get that mental lock. You get that mental lock, and I wanted to go somewhere that was just alien and just weird. And for whatever reasons, I took philosophy and religion courses in college, and India was just one of those places that kept pulling to me. Like Colorado was a place that I just read about, and it kept pulling to me. And now I've been like 4 times, and it's my like favorite place in the U.S.
That's pretty cool that you're somebody who takes something out of their head and like makes it a reality.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't do that.
I think if you want it badly
seriously.
enough, you can make it happen. You just have to have, like what we were talking about earlier, about dedication and the
Yeah,
willingness.
but those are words that people don't like.
Nobody
I don't want to
them.
be
I would love to not
dedicated,
have to be
man.
dedicated,
Like a
you know.
diet.
You know, I don't.
But the
don't-
name of the game is,
I don't want to have. You mean
have a choice.
wait?
You have a
yeah,
choice.
I have to work for that. No, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? But you did that. And that's killer. That's killer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So just having your hand in a couple things. Like I try to do that, you know, and be decent at them and build something up so that we can get away from I think we're going to have to get away from the old ways of working, like these 40-hour weeks. Like how,
So
I don't want to
irrational.
insult anybody, but like how did we get into that? You know, because that was the way of life. That was the system we were brought up to. But now we have technology, and technology is going to come along, and you can order anything, and robots are going to make it and then deliver it through automated cars, and all these things. And these industries are going to go away. What are you going to do with all these people?
Well,
and we're just going to get more and more people. What are you going to do?
well, it's going to be a huge issue that somebody's going to have to address. Is that, and it's already happening now, and there's some really good examples of it. Is that as technology gets better, humans as a workforce, like you just said, 40-hour work weeks, right? You get paid per what you can do, right? And that's how you function in society, is what you make per hour, how much money you take home, and what you can then buy from your hourly wage, and what you financially you have. We've already seen the technology replace, like you mentioned earlier, the guy with when the Model T come out, right? If you make horseshoes for horses and the Model T comes out, guess what? Your business is in trouble. If you're a blacksmith, like, you just got really reduced, right? Makes sense? Same thing's happening. Amazon killed bookstores, Books A Million, whatever. The internet is taking over everything when it comes to our economics, right? And so if you're as a person, you're not positioning yourself to benefit from that, to be able to manipulate that, you're in trouble. And it requires some degree of intelligence and some degree of forethought, because the system right now is not, in high school, they're not telling you to become like
Adaptable.
savvy in technology. It's still the same, like, go to college kind of,
We'll teach you
song and
Microsoft
dance.
Word.
Yeah, exactly. Like go learn about like XYZ diploma. I don't want to name any specific because I don't want to offend anybody, but the degrees that are like fucking not worth the paper that they're printed on.
Right.
You're not getting a job for that. You know what I'm saying? So like, if you're not catching up to the times, you're gonna get screwed bad, because it's like you said, robots that make, what'd you say, like robots that they make everything and then like serve it. What'd you say? Like, what was the example that you gave a minute ago?
Just total automated service.
Everything.
From everything.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
From the order process to the
Right.
the process.
Yeah,
of
So
from a
what,
car
what, do,
to
you-
a
what do you think in
sandwich.
10 years? How many people you think are going to be at McDonald's taking your order? How many people in 10
I mean, look
years?
at Jacque Fresco and his ideas
what I was
of
about to get
at. Oh,
self-building
man.
buildings,
Yeah.
just machines that just run the program, and they just create
And
things.
like you were saying, it's a major problem that people aren't adapting to this, and that's where I think like all the Jacque Fresco shit really starts to hit home, and it becomes actual solid shit that like, oh, this crazy old man that was all a futurist like 80 years ago is now like, oh, it's really hitting home.
who just died within the last year.
Yeah,
too,
he
by
died
the way.
last
No,
year.
was it
Oh,
last year?
I think so.
I was so
So,
mad when I saw that picture of you and
RIP.
Brittany and him. I was
look
so-
him up.
because at that time I didn't know y'all were into him. I thought that was like not only I knew about that, but I didn't know that y'all knew about that. You
Yeah.
and Brittany. And when I saw that photo, I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Y'all went like exactly." It's all about like
It hit
execution.
home too hard.
No, like in a good way.
Yeah.
But it was like all about execution. Like
Right.
I had been seeing that dude for a while on the internet. I didn't fucking buy a ticket and drive to fucking Florida, which is not that far away from me, and go see him like you did.
You're right.
And Brittany did. And I was like, damn, that's awesome. You know,
And it was awesome.
yeah, I was impressed as hell. Now, that being said, I still as much as I can and have researched what he's been about, what he said is like, I can't buy into everything that he said.
Yeah, he was an extremist.
Only
for
because, hold on, only because he had a lot of and I hate to use this word, but like utopian ideas, don't you think? Do you think that?
To a degree, I think that's one of the biggest problems with people accepting him is they just assume he was a utopian because a lot of the stuff he says does sound like it, and even like you're saying, as a person who's heard him a lot, it still sounds like it. But
I don't mean to discredit him when I say that, or like because that's what a lot of people do. Like, oh, you're a utopist. Like all your ideas are shit. I don't think that at all. But I do remember. And you probably remember him or know more about him than even what I remember. But like, you only take what you need. Wasn't that one of his big things?
Yeah.
Meaning like resource wise,
right?
People are never going to do that. Not the current psychological state that people in the masses are right now. That's not going to happen.
Right.
People take what they want, not what they need. So. I get he's 50,000 times smarter than I am, but you have to be realistic in the same sense. And I'm not bashing him because, like I said, I'm follow him on Twitter and the Venus Project and all that shit. Like when I saw that, I was like, hell yeah! Like somebody thinks that way. He's been what 1970? When did he come on the scene?
Oh man, I don't know.
It's hard a long time.
Yeah, it's hard to define when he came on the scene, but he died last year at I think he was
90 something.
No,
what did he make?
102, 101, 102.
Wow,
because he had his 100th birthday just a few years ago, and I forget his birthday, but he was born the day before, or the day after me. Like our birthdays were like one day removed.
Okay,
which is pretty crazy for me, but yeah, getting back to what we were saying though, talking about like the 40-hour work week and all that.
I think that came out of necessity though.
Yeah, like it's inevitable. Like that's what's going to happen. Technology is going to advance and society is not going to be. Technology will always advance faster than the culture can. Like,
correct.
I was talking to my grandma about this just last night even. I was like, look at Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein came out and he like really pushed.
Yep.
He really pushed him up. He's like, y'all look, we can take matter and take some matter, just a small bit of matter, and make a ridiculous amount of energy with it.
Yep.
So like he knew what he was doing. Like he saw the potential, but then like you got to look at him. He was leading the way. Everyone else was behind him. Like culture, society will always be behind the guy leading the way. So this guy came out and was like, look, I just came out with the most efficient thing ever to make an enormous amount of energy from nothing. And like,
first question, how do we make money off of that?
Well, no,
well, we don't all.
Yeah.
Fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's always the first thing. But like the second thing is the way humanity reacted. They're like, let's make a bomb, and then Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
I would love, and I need to do my own research on this. I think this would be a killer. Have you ever heard of the rare earth elements nuclear reactor?
No.
I wish I had more information to give you. We need to look all that. Like the three of us need to look that up. We need to have a podcast on that only.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Huh? And the hemp car.
Yeah,
let's write that down for two ideas. Rare earth elements nuclear reactor that's supposedly it's walk away safe, meaning a regular nuclear reactor that we have nowadays, you have to put energy into it to keep it from melting down, right?
Yeah, and if it does melt down, you got a problem.
A huge problem. A rare earth element nuclear reactor apparently it gives you energy, and then when you pull the plug or walk away or turn everything off or a tsunami hits, it just stops.
Oh, okay.
And I've watched a ton of YouTube videos on it and like the difference between using, the weapons grade plutonium, uranium, whatever that isotope is that they use for that.
Yeah, uranium-243 or whatever.
Thank you. That's why having more people in here is better than one. That was weapons grade, and that made more sense when you want to make bombs. But if you want to make just energy, it's way better to do it this way. But we didn't do it this way because this way makes weapons, and we want weapons, and we don't just want just like pure energy. So that's like I'm going to get you to investigate that. We're going to do a podcast.
Homework assignment.
Yeah, homework assignment for you.
I heard Jordan Peterson the other day. I was watching something.
The Zeitgeist guy?
No, that's
no, that's the Canadian.
Yeah, Canadian guy.
Oh, you're into him.
Oh yeah, I fucking love Jordan Peterson.
He's catching a ton of fucking flack though.
Oh yeah, he's like Yeah.
Yes.
Because he won't do the gender pronouns.
Yeah, he's viewed as a radical Republican by people who don't listen to what he's saying.
That's crazy.
It's hilarious. They're like, he's such a radical conservative. It's like, no, he's actually pretty politically neutral. It's just what he's saying based on current political climate makes him seem like a radical.
Right.
But he's basically some guy that doesn't really give that much of a shit about politics.
He don't give a fuck.
Yeah, he's just saying some things. He's just like, hey, look, here's some science. Like, here's some logic and reason. But
can
Democrats are like, oh.
Can I ask a quick question though? When I listen to him, I do two things. I go, one, you're smarter than me, and you articulate. I feel like I can articulate things decently, but you do it way better.
Dude, he's the king. I can't.
Yeah, and
I don't
quicker.
know anybody.
And quicker. You do it way quicker, and you're better. But outside of that, when it comes to the core concepts of what you're saying, I go, that's common sense. Absolutely, 110%. Just like common sense. Mm-hmm. But apparently,
yeah, people want to go to war.
Wait
with
a second.
That guy.
Apparently, that's not common sense.
No.
How did we get there?
I don't know.
How?
Yeah, it makes me sad to see all these people, typically, like I said, left-wing, Democrat, if you want to use, I hate using the word liberal to define Democrats, but liberals, those people like really like shut down. Anytime he says anything, they're like, oh, you're just pushing the patriarchy. And he's not. He's actually completely against that. What he's saying is like, look, we're different, and here's our differences. Like he talks about the wage gap. I love everything he says about the wage gap. Like he just shuts that issue down, and people that already have it ingrained in their heads that
there is a male versus female, or just in general?
Yes, the male, female, the wage gap, because the common idea with people who believe in that are like, oh, men get paid more than women, and he's like, you're being too general. And that's the thing with, I think, the difference between the way Jordan Peterson thinks compared to how most people think. He takes all the variables that he can imagine into consideration, and most people get too general. And he's always like, people like, people are like, men get paid more than women. And he's like, yeah, but what do you mean? And they're like blown away that he would ask.
Don't even question me about that.
Yeah, they're like, well, look, if you look at every single woman and then average them together, and you look at every single man and average, men make more than women. And he's like, you're not taking enough into consideration. He's like, even if that's true, which I'm not saying it is, look at the jobs that pay more. A lot of jobs that pay more, like crazy things. Like, I'm just gonna like pick a real wacky one, but underwater welder. Mm-hmm. Underwater welders make like $125 an hour, like starting out, like, and there's nothing about being an underwater welder that being naturally born a man, your predisposition to be better at it. Correct. The difference is more men voluntarily choose to follow that career field.
Correct.
So when you factor in all the men in the world and all the jobs that men do, and then you factor in all the women in the world and all the women that jobs do, in the end, the men absolutely are making more money, but they're nobody's forcing nobody. It's not like a communist thing where like only men can be underwater welders. No, it's only men that are stepping up and volunteering to do that. And it's nothing against the women that don't choose that, but the women that don't choose that and they voluntarily choose jobs that just pay less that a man could do as well. Like nobody says like, oh, a man can't do this lower paying job than an underwater welder.
That's right.
Don't lose your shit and say like, oh, there's a wage gap.
Well, you're using a lot of facts and a lot of like common sense, and that's offensive.
Yeah. And
it really is offensive.
That, you know, from everything I've heard,
you've never heard anybody step up and like chant like, "There's not enough women construction laborers. There's not enough women construction laborers.
Yeah.
There's not what you know." Is it because women can't do that? Yeah, they can. They absolutely can.
Yeah,
is it because all women are greedy and they all want like? There's just like a small section of people that bitch and complain and can make a case or they propel themselves forward by complaining about shit like that, in my opinion.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Exactly.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just, it's a weird world. You know what? We live in a world where everybody has an opinion and they get to broadcast it, just like our three narcissistic asses are doing right now.
Right.
So you get to hear everybody's opinion on that shit.
Yeah.
So
and but I just got on to Jordan Peterson as something I was trying to.
How'd you find out about him?
Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, he
for
went
me.
on Rogan,
Mine
and
too.
I don't really listen to podcasts at all, hardly.
Snob.
But whenever really good ones come out, all my friends like, listen to this one. Enough people hit me up. They're like, listen to Jordan Peterson. I had like 6 people tell me, so I did. I'm like, holy shit.
Yep.
So I was like so inspired by that I looked up some other things he said. Just hearing him doing lectures that are on YouTube and stuff. I'm like, man,
Yep.
I've never heard anybody that talks like this guy. Like, he articulates.
Yep.
Very, very, very similar to the way Jacque Fresco does.
Yeah.
Like, he chooses his words super carefully, and then people don't truly listen to what he's saying, and they just have prejudices against him, and they're like, "Oh, you're some radical conservative," blah blah blah. And it's like, no, I can, like, from an external of Jordan Peterson and external of like his naysayers or however you want to describe it, I can see why they would think that, but I can also see why they would think that because they're not being open-minded and listening to what he's saying. Like, just listen.
It's called
like,
having preconceived biases before you go into a conversation. I don't care. I'm sure if we sat here long enough, I can find something that you agree, that like you feel passionate about, that I don't, like I completely disagree with. But I'm an adult, and I understand like that you have your mind and I have my mind. And as long as like we can find some kind of common ground, you know what I'm saying? As long as you're not like into like murdering, thousands of people or, something crazy
Hey, don't
like
question what I do in my free time.
as long as you're not hurting anybody else, like we can kind of come to an agreement.
Yeah.
I feel like, and but there are other people that they're not like that. Like you have to believe what, like, first, just playing a role playing game here. You have to believe what I believe, and if you don't believe that, it's all black and white. And if you don't believe what I believe, you're wrong, and I'm gonna make you wrong, or try to make you wrong, against all odds, all facts, all reality, to make sure that I'm right. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
No one is ever always right. Ever.
Yeah, like
I don't feel like. I mean, really.
One of the most read books of all time. It's like, as far as I know, it's in the top 5 most read books. I'm counting the Bible as being the number 1 one. It's still in the top 5, like within the 4 below the Bible, is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is written in like 1910.
I had a friend of mine bring that book up the other day.
It's like required reading in business school.
Yes,
in my
he's
opinion,
a business guy.
It's probably one of the best books ever written.
Is it really? Have you read? I've never read. He had the book. And I thought it was kind of funny and thought it was a joke.
No, it's legit.
Yeah.
I own the book.
The best book? Are you talking about the game book?
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah, there's a lot of super basic stuff in that book. It's like when you read that book, as you're reading it, it's like everything in that book you kind of already knew.
That's how I felt about it. Just hearing the top,
when you hear somebody
title.
say it, it really hits home.
So
and
well.
like, yeah,
he like ties it all together.
Yeah, and what we were going into, like people shutting down and not actually listening to each other. That's one of the things he hits on in that book. He says,
"See, that's so common sense to me."
If you're gonna, here's the thing. Like, I'm gonna try to say it as simply as I can. If you're going to have an argument, the two parties, before beginning the argument, need to realize what is their common ground. They need to both agree. So,
Can I give you, it's just for 1 second here, and I don't want to like take this off into a whole nother direction, but you mentioned it. Somebody mentioned it earlier, like gun control, right? All this shit that's happening, people getting shot up in schools and kids dying, is absolutely terrible. So, to what you just said, whatever side of the argument you're on, don't we all agree that people / children / anybody dying is bad?
Right.
Let's start there.
Yeah, and then work up from there.
Now, I understand it's a very complex trek up the tree, climb up the tree.
Yeah, but let's start at the roots. Let's find the thing we can agree. Right. It's like a standard.
If you say you like the Second Amendment, and which is not true, say that I don't think. Let me reverse that, because it makes more. If I like the Second Amendment and you don't, I don't think that you value children's lives any less or more than I do, regardless of however we stand.
Exactly.
People twist that real quick.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Especially within the media.
Correct.
And that's what he says. It's like, before you begin an argument with any person ever, because if you don't do this, it will continue to go on and on and on, and nobody will ever. It's like, you ever seen like a diehard scientist arguing with a diehard like theologian, somebody that's like definitely religious? Like, you got one person that's dealing strictly in facts, like hardcore material facts, and another person that's doing faith-based stuff. So it's two separate languages, and they're arguing infinitely, and they will never, ever, ever, ever come to a conclusion. It just goes on and on and on, and like, they don't establish. You gotta come with that. Yeah.
Cohesion.
You gotta have which is funny. Speaking of science, like, that's how standards work. Like, 1 meter in the United States is equal to 1 meter in Spain, which is equal to 1 meter in Nigeria. Like, there are standards with mathematics. That's the beautiful thing. It's the universal language, mathematics. It's based on standards. You have a standard. That's how science works. Like, you can do an experiment. Say you.
That's what I like about Jacque. Can I interrupt? Jacque said one time, and that's just what sticks out in my head. He said, you can have two opposing points that are not connected, and if you need to build a bridge in between those 2 points, he said, politicians can debate. I'm paraphrasing like a son of a bitch. Politicians can debate all day long about what you need to connect those 2 points, but you put a bunch of engineers together, there's no debate.
Yeah, it's whatever
it is what it is.
Right.
So, when I heard that, I was like, that makes a shit ton of sense. Like, there are certain things that are facts, right? Yes. How much weight can this table hold based on this material over this much span? There's no debate. There's no debate. You can lie, but the truth is the truth.
The table will collapse at a certain given weight.
Built with this kind of material over this far reach, with this kind of design, like, all the factors that are involved, this is going to happen. You can say whatever you want, but the truth is going to come through in mathematics, like you just said.
Right.
But when it comes to like politics, religion, all these other things, what is the best? And this is not my quote either. What's better, chicken or steak?
Steak.
What's better?
All right, it's steak. That's what I just heard.
Even though I'm eating chicken right now.
That's funny.
Which, if you're still in this at this point, I don't even think you care if you hear me chewing.
But you can edit all the other bullshit out.
Not gonna edit shit.
Yeah. But the thing is that there is no right answer to the chicken or steak argument.
Right.
You either like chicken or I
disagree.
Or you like both. Exactly. You're one of the fundamentalists. Like, it's damn fucking steak. You're gonna eat steak. There's no, when it comes to a subjective point, there is no right answer.
Yeah, and if you properly establish standards, you can determine what is subjective and what is objective.
Correct.
And when you happen upon
but gun control or gun violence or gun things has a level of both, which I feel like neither are appropriately shared when people talk about it, right? If you use statistics, which that's hard to do, I get when you're talking about people's lives. It's very hard to just use the numbers, but what do the numbers say? It's not a good conversation people want to have.
Who is presenting the numbers?
Correct,
too,
and where do those numbers come from? I get all that, and that's how it gets super ugly, But I just feel like that if we all understand that we're all in the same. But you know what? When you talk about like mass politics or mass media or mass exposure or mass news reporting, it's not about finding the solution to the problem. It's about finding the most people that want to watch your show or that want to hear it's ratings.
Emotions.
Based. Yeah.
Whoever's the most
or it's splitting people down the middle so we can get votes.
Yeah, let's make some teams when there weren't teams already. Let's create a problem where there were no problems.
Exactly.
This is
and that's what got
good
me
in the long run.
I was for a few years super big into following, and I still like to listen to it, but like politics and stuff. It's like, but once you realize, it's like just like you said, if somebody wrote 2 + 2 = on a piece of paper, you're gonna sit there and look at it, and what are you gonna do after equals? What are you gonna look at? You're gonna go 2 + 2 = what? What's your brain gonna do?
4.
Yeah. But when you look at politics on a large scale, a lot of it, I may be like oversimplifying. It may not be quite as 2 + 2 = 4, but a lot of it is. And it's
somehow
2 + 2
with 3 and 5.
There's people writing 16. There's other people that just drew a finger, like a middle finger on it. There's other people that's got just drew a turd emoji on it. Yeah. Certain people just like wrote a question mark, like, what do you think? Other people like, is math even real? Yeah. Like, it's just so crazy.
Seriously, where is Carmen Sandiego? Like,
exactly. Yeah, you know what I mean?
No, it's two plus
like,
two.
Eventually, when you follow it long enough, you're like, I can't keep up with this, and I feel like now I understand. Hey, y'all are fucking with me. You know what I mean? It's like, I get it. It only took 6 years of watching. You're fucking with me. I get it.
This
okay,
ain't real.
okay,
Ain't
okay, okay. It's like, so now I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know, man. But it has power. They control shit. They make the laws. Can you smoke this plant? Can we buy this piece of property? Do you have to pay this tax? Your mom died. She gave you this. We get a percentage of it. Why? Don't ask us. Just shut up.
Because we need roads.
Yeah.
We need roads.
Yeah. Roads.
roads.
In quotation marks as they bomb something else or something.
But, yeah. Getting back to Jordan Peterson, getting back to Jacque Fresco, getting back to the topic we were on earlier of automation starting to take over things. I feel like it's happening. It's inevitable. Perfect example is McDonald's. You walk in now and you pretty much type in your own order at McDonald's, which is what the 15 and 16-year-olds have been doing for years anyway. Like, it takes no training to hit a picture of some fries. People are so resistant to that because our culture is designed, like every single president we've ever had, when they come in, they do their state of the address, or they do their acceptance speech, or they do they're talking about make more jobs.
They have to.
More jobs.
They have to.
That is what our culture considers to be a good thing, because like we're based on like money as being the staple of like, this is how successful you are. So we want, more jobs. So every president, no matter they're Republican, Democrat, or Green Party, Libertarian, nobody gives a fuck. What we want are more jobs. So when we hear that machines are taking jobs away from the 15 and 16-year-olds, which is where we all started, unless you were born into wealth, like even the people who are wealthy and they made it through wealth, most of them got like the minimum wage jobs at McDonald's and then became like whatever later. So when we hear that machines are taking jobs away from these people, and it's like, okay, machines are building cars now, machines are making our sandwiches, where do we have all these people that don't have jobs, what do we do? And it's super scary to people. And what Jacque Fresco's been saying the whole damn time is like, all your fear with like everybody losing their jobs to machines, stop it. Don't be afraid of not having work. Enjoy the fact that you don't have to work to survive. We need to push that. What we need to do is make it to where everybody can live their entire lives. They can be born and die at the age of 150. And the whole time they had minimal work, but had an enormously high standard of living, because we embrace the technology. Like, instead of like making your goal to earn the most money, like make it to where like all your food is made for you. And like, I'm getting extreme now, but like all your food's made for you. Everything's delivered to you. Like everything becomes eventually automated.
This is where I don't want to say I deviate, but this is where like where the rubber hits the road. Like, so how does that play out? You see what I'm saying? So,
the transition.
So until you have, you saw iRobot?
No.
The Will Smith? Oh yeah, you don't watch movies. We talked about that. So until you have the robot that is like sentient enough to where it can do it, like, hey robot, go cook me this meal. Hey robot, go build me this house. Hey robot, go wash my car. Like, it has to be that smart to where it can just do everything, whatever, right? Hey robot, take out my liver and like, put the new one in. It does whatever. And when you break down, robot, other robot comes and fixes you. Until you have that, how do we get to this utopian?
That's the big question.
Thing?
How to
and
transition.
then when the robot's that smart, how does he not just chop your head off and not give two shits about what you just said?
Yeah, see, I don't think there'll ever be like a great robot takeover like in the Matrix, because like robots only run on programming. Like, they only do what you're programmed.
You're wrong right now. What you just said is wrong.
What? No.
Yeah, they already have AI programs that are like what they program into it, and then it does its thing, and it comes out with something else.
Oh yeah, like they have them to where they can basically learn. But even in that sense, like, is a robot ever going to like come out with on its own like selfishness and greed and the want to take over? Like,
yeah, I think the first thing that the AI, Google this if we can, the first thing that the AI robot did was like ask why it was here. It was some weird, like super philosophical. It was weird.
Yeah.
They've also had 2 robots in Microsoft talk to each other, AI shit, where they started creating their own language that both robots understood, but that we didn't.
Yeah.
Now, whether that means anything, whether that was actual, like, had anything to do with anything, I don't know. I didn't dig deep enough into that to understand that, but there's already anomalies that are happening now.
Right.
They already have robots that can replace like the guy at FedEx that picks up the box and like puts it into the place where it needs to go. Those are there now.
Right.
So what's going to happen when that robot can carry a machine gun?
Yeah. But see, it's our responsibility to never give it that ability to begin with. It can learn all
Google
at once.
Boston Dynamics right now. Have you seen that shit? Dude, they have robots right now that have legs, arms, and like a, not like a face, but it's like, it can do a backflip. It can jump on boxes. It can pick up a box. It can get kicked over. Do this kind of thing. Stand back up, pick the box back up.
I have seen that.
They have robots that look like cows or like some kind of like horse that run on all fours. I mean, this is 2018. What do you think it's going to look like in 2030? Yeah. What is it going to look like when they're this big and they fly and they like, where does your mind go? I know where mine goes. It's like it's got like some little thing and they like all land on your head, blows you up because that's what they wanted to do. Yeah. Or what? I don't know. Maybe I'm paranoid. Like, I don't think I am.
I don't know.
You sound pretty paranoid.
I do sound pretty paranoid, but it could happen, or none of it could happen.
They can only go as far as we program them to in the beginning. Now, if it only takes one guy, if one guy writes the program to be like, hey,
yeah, but they've already done that.
Be as best as you can be.
They've already done that. That's not paranoia. Watson is an IBM computer right now that is supposedly like can scan all like your medical records or whatever and come up with it like diagnoses. Fact check what it knows about medical technology or medical information versus you, the patient, scanning against all these if this then that kind of shit, and then come up with a diagnosis.
Accurate diagnosis. Yeah.
And when it comes to like it right now, where we are right now, when it comes to information, like again, Google. When you Google something, when it's like black and white information, it can do it like that.
Right.
No problem. Way quicker than you could ever do it, or I could ever do it.
Yeah, because I can look it up, but then I got to read it. It takes me a while to read.
And it can do it in 0.00034 seconds.
Right.
And give you 50,000 results. The complexity is when it has to multi-dimensional think and come up creative thinking, like creative solutions or whatever. That's where it's struggling right now. But like they're conquering that.
Yeah.
I feel like Terminator was a like a predictor of what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. But even if that does happen, if you look at just like the standard theory of evolution, like a long enough timeline, then the superior being's taking over. Like,
yeah,
who are we to stop the higher being?
This is true.
Like
another quote that's not mine. The human race is the sex organs of the machine.
Yeah.
Not my quote. Yeah. The human beings are the sex organism of the machine.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just like that chicken dinner I just had. That was super good.
I feel like that's a good place to close it on, man. I feel like we covered everything.
I just
chicken
literally just finished.
Yeah.
Like, thank God you guys were here.
Yeah.
Like, thank God you were here, Anthony. I would have had
to
talk just now for all that time.
I feel like you should at least mention that steam pot that cooked that chicken while we were doing it.
People know about the Instapot.
They'll
see a lot. I posted a picture while we were doing that. It was just like,
nice.
Good shit here.
Nice.
Just like that podcast. Well, Jared, man, that was fun, man.
I had a good time, man. I love your room. I love your setup.
Thanks, man.
Let's do more. Let's not make this a one-off.
This was fun. We should definitely do. I feel like we could probably fucking rant for hours
easy.
as proven.
Yeah.
So we're already at the 3-hour mark. And even when we took breaks, we didn't stop talking. So,
Wow.
you know.
This
Wow,
is the first podcast I've ever done where I've been assigned homework. So I'd say this is
You have
pretty
homework,
serious.
and I really feel like you need to do another. I'm surprised you didn't already have a podcast, to be honest. But you need
Me
you
too.
need to do more episodes.
Well, your driving thing is its own version of a.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
You know.
It's just a different form.
Yeah.
Does that have a name, by the way?
No, and that's what pisses me
No,
off.
it's,
And you invited me to like how not to drive, which I thought was you, and it's
Yeah.
not.
I did too.
No,
So-
I'm the
but I-
helper in that. I'm not even the main guy.
I liked it, I think, just because.
I thought it was you. I was waiting to
suggested
see
it,
your
and I
shit.
figured it was good shit.
Yeah, so I'm
anyway,
gonna dislike that. You need to create your own. You need to create your own thing. It needs to be only your shit. If you had just a Facebook page of your fucking dash cams, either cut in or separate of your opinions when you rant, all out, vodka'd up or whatever your deal is
Yeah,
now.
because I get way too opinionated every time. I look back and I'm like, damn it. But it's funny though.
It is funny. That's all that matters. That's all that matters if it's funny.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
work on that.
Yeah.
You
we
have
did
two
that.
sets of homework.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The second one's a big assignment though.
what was the first one?
I don't remember. You told me. I think you told me to look up the Boston.
No, Earth, rare.
Oh, rare earth. Yeah.
Oh yeah. If you'll
nuclear
remind me,
reactors.
I'll remember that. I'm gonna Google that again because I watched a shit ton of YouTube on that rare earth elements
Nuclear
reactor.
reactors,
Yeah,
yeah.
There you go.
yeah.
You don't even have to assign homework to other people.
Well, I forgot about that until you just said that again. I'm glad you wrote it down.
Glad you told me
That
to.
shit was.
We're all glad.
It's like that
I'm
Jacque
glad,
Fresco
girl.
shit. It's like that Jacque Fresco. It's like it's too good to be true. You
Yeah.
know, thorium. It's called a thorium reactor.
Or thorium. Yeah.
Thorium reactor. Anyway, maybe it's all smoke and mirrors. Maybe none of it makes sense.
Which, by the way, props to you for going to the Venus Project before
Yeah.
you died.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Talking
again,
about accomplishments and like, getting people on like in their last stages,
Yeah, in the
like
last
no, it's the
minute.
difference.
pretty awesome.
It's the difference between thinking about something and executing on it. Which again, it was like a podcast was like a thought for me. Then seeing your stuff and it's like, man, somebody else is already out there doing it. It's a good thing. It's the same thing for like music for me. I remember like I want to be in a band, you know what I mean? And it was like I can never do that. And then you do it, and it's like other people are doing that, and then you meet this whole group of people. It's like we were talking about earlier. It's so much better to have more people involved than to just be by yourself. Period. I don't care what you're doing. Venus Project, music, podcast, whatever. The more people involved, as long as they're not like assholes or something,
Oh, yeah.
the better it's going to be.
I feel like if we had, if all three of us had known each other, this is our first time sitting down and talking. For
Yeah.
people who don't know, we should have all gone to Rogan last night when he was in New Orleans. But I know I couldn't swing it.
I couldn't either, and it was a weeknight. I was so
Yeah.
pissed. Malcolm, you know Malcolm.
Mhm.
Malcolm, he posted, Joe Rogan is now in my top 15 level of or top 15 list of comics, and I was like, I read that, I was like, oh, he was in New Orleans last night. I was so mad.
I knew
Yeah.
it was coming soon. I didn't realize it was that. I still thought it was a few more weeks.
I may try to catch him in Nashville, but I don't think I can pull it
I
off.
saw him in Austin. It was really good.
You met him.
Mhm.
That was another person you yeah.
Along with Tommy Wiseau, speaking as disaster
Yeah.
artist.
And I met Maddox, if anybody even knows who that guy is. But
I don't know. who
Yeah, I
that
need
is.
a refresher on
that's-
that every
that's some
time.
old school internet. That's like, yeah. But
Nope. I don't know who that is.
I hung out with Jamie Bestwick for like 2 weeks.
I hated
few years
Rogan.
ago, too.
I hated Rogan for a long time. Like, not personally because I didn't know him, but I knew him from Fear Factor. Are y'all old enough to remember that?
I do remember
yeah,
that was the thing, but
I
I
watched Fear
didn't
Factor.
really watch.
I
TV
hate
back
no,
then.
I didn't either, and I hated
I just saw him as a host. Like he didn't strike me as either. It was like here's a guy who just yells, encourages
Yeah,
you.
some douchey
Yeah.
dude.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when so that was when reality TV was like blowing up, and I've hated it since day one.
Yeah, me too.
I'm talking about hated it with a passion. So then I can remember when the internet, this is so weird. Like, you know, your grandparents, like, they didn't know television. Like, we're going to be able to tell the story about we didn't know the internet
Yeah.
to your kids or your kids' kids or your cousin's kids or whoever's kids. I remember when there was no internet. They're going to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
You know,
it's
they're
even
gonna-
more significant than not knowing television. Like,
way more significant.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. You had to go to a store to get what? You know what I mean?
like the
So,
last biggest invention was electricity.
right. Right. And the internet is probably bigger than that.
Yeah.
But so Rogan to me was a reality TV host, and I didn't dig it. Anyway, long story short, once the internet started becoming like where it was on your TV, like through PlayStation, for me, that's how it came about. Like, and I started Googling all this shit. He started showing up because of his podcast, and I'm always into like the Jacque Fresco kind of things, like the philosophy kind of things, the
dimethyltryptamine kind of things.
At 100%, the Zeitgeist movie kind of thing. We didn't talk about
Peter
him
Joseph,
yet.
that's his name.
I didn't know if it was Joseph or Jackson.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking of earlier. All these kind of things. And so Rogan starts showing up, and I'm like,
why is this?
Yeah, I'm like,
guy
I was like, fuck this dude. He's like, why is he in this? Like, he's for lack of a better word, a douche. And this is way long ago. And then it only took me a couple episodes to realize. And then once I realized he had a podcast, which I still didn't even really know what that was, I was like, oh, he's on the same level as me. To me, he was the new Charlie Rose. I don't know if y'all know who Charlie Rose is or ever watched Charlie Rose. Mm-hmm. Charlie Rose used to have a show on NPR where he sat down literally in a room like this with it was literally black tablecloth. It was him and another person, and that was it. And there was no frills. It was no bullshit. And he interviewed people, and he was so good at interviewing people, and he had always the best, like from world leaders to like this guy that just wrote this new book. And I used to love watching him, man. And then the internet came along, and like Rogan kind of filled that spot where he had all the cool like psychedelic guys or the philosophy guys or the Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of guys, what would have been Carl Sagan's, but he wasn't alive, which Carl Sagan was on Charlie Rose at one point. I was like, all right, Rogan's he's the new man. He's the new scientific, the fringe artist, right? The not mainstream, but a little bit of this other shit that not everybody accepts, and he mushes it all together, and it's amazing.
He's such a good just facilitator. Like he's got such a good bullshit detector.
And he comes from he says it like the masculine ape kind of. He's not the smartest man on the planet, and he admits that. But when you hear him start interviewing people that he's into, he's asking all the questions that should be asked, so enough about it to ask the right questions.
Yeah, he's a smart ass motherfucker.
And he's a comedian, which makes it funny. So I don't know.
I feel like all the most successful comedians are very smart people.
Without it, 100%.
Look at George Carlin. Who's ever's been like George Carlin was an idiot? Nobody's ever said that.
Well, it depends on what you call smart.
Yeah.
What'd you make on your ACT?
Subjective.
Okay, you made a perfect score, but you get in a room full of people and you can't talk.
Yeah.
So we're all different. I think everybody's a genius. You just have to figure out what it is.
Yeah, just how you define it.
Right. And some people squander it on drugs or whatever, or just don't give a shit or whatever. But you have the potential to be a genius in your own way.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like if you're not physically handicapped,
even
like,
Stephen
which
Hawkins.
could be a mental.
Stephen Hawkins just passed away 2 days ago. He was mentally handicapped, or physically, I should say.
He was supposed to die forever ago.
Correct.
Just out of spite.
His brain,
out of spite just lived anyway.
His brain
decades.
said, "Bullshit, we're doing this."
Yeah. Shit's ridiculous.
What are we at now? 6 hours?
Oh, that's somewhere around.
This is like the filibuster of podcasts. I feel like.
It's like the Southern thing.
We
like
blocked the bill.
leave.
We blocked the bill on the fucking house floor tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should do it again for sure.
Yeah, I feel like we're just stepping away just that we can come back later, just like we've been doing.
This is episode 1
Yeah, it's a mini series.
of a mini series.
Promote this on the commercials for a little while. Yeah, hey.
I just want to let y'all know what I just ate was fucking fantastic. It was really
You look
good.
super happy.
I haven't eaten dinner yet, so
Nice.
besides that vegetable soup.
Nice.
But that was it was great.
Winter chicken dinner.
Yeah. But yeah, let's wrap it up. That was fun.
That was.
All right. That's it. That's it.
There's no
I don't have to
climactic
tell
end.
you anymore. It's just
Yeah.
that's the end of it. We're done.
We'll
We're
do it
walking
again,
away.
baby.